Listeners, I hope you guys have a cold beer. This is gonna be something, Carl. It's gonna be absolutely something. I don't know whether it's either gonna be the greatest Zero to Here podcast of all time or something we delete. And I'm not totally sure, but I'm super pumped. I did a very, very small amount of research today in preparation for this. And I think I've got some good shit here. I'm really pumped. Vinny. Vinny.
Sorry.
Where did this podcast come about? You called me a week ago. Do you remember?
Yeah.
You called me a week ago and asked me if I watched The Last Dance, the first 2 episodes. Michael Jordan documentary. And my answer was yes. And it quickly got into a sibling rivalry argument of greatest athlete of all time.
Yeah.
Like immediately, basically. And so I stopped the conversation. I'm like, we need to gather our thoughts, do a slight amount of research so we somewhat know what we're talking about, and then get into this seriously. So we basically got to recreate the anger. Yeah.
Sorry, the big thing for me is like it's all on emotions. It's all about what you felt when you watched these people play. And there's some people on this list that we obviously never saw play, but it's how these people made you feel when you watched them play. So that is a bit of a disclaimer on who my number one's going to be anyway.
Okay, so that I think that's an important point out of the gate is that both you and I would classify as highly emotional people. Like on the spectrum of humans across the world, we would be in like the 90th plus percentile, I think, of emotions. So there's going to be some rational stats brought up. There's going to be some practicality, and there's going to be some things that absolutely don't make any sense to a lot of people listening.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. So
for sure. I can start with. I'll just start with one that's completely irrational, and we don't even need to talk about this. But like when we started talking about the greatest athlete of all time, one of the first names that came to my head, and we don't need to talk about this person, but it did, is Ichiro, and it's because when he came and he started playing in America in the MLB after playing in Japan, like his first year he was MVP. It was unbelievable, and I just remember that first year, and the Mariners had that record-setting season. They lost in the playoffs, but they had that record-setting season, and it was just unreal. And just what he did from being the greatest Japanese player to coming and doing so well in his first year, I just thought of his name right away. And we don't need to talk about him because he's not even in like the top 10 baseball players of all time. But anyway, so when you talk about irrational, that's the number one.
First of all, I totally thought you were going to say Jalen Rose there. I totally thought you were going to say Jalen Rose. But at the same time, like, I think that's a good point of someone like Ichiro that I didn't even think of, who completely changes a franchise and like the way that we think about Seattle Mariners. There's so many people out there like that either aren't playing in a, top 3, top 5 sport in the world, so you don't know their name, but there's just like so many ridiculous athletes out there that you have no idea who they are just because of the circumstances or their situation or the country they were born in or like whatever it is, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and then there's sports that are just not big in North America that we don't know about. Like,
totally.
Like the number 2 sport in the world is cricket. Like it's the number 2 sport in the world. So there's going to be a cricket player on this list if you're actually doing this list fair. So I'm sure you don't have a cricket player on your list. I do. I just searched the number 1 cricket player in the history of the world. So, but it's the number 2 sport in the world. So, yeah, I got Don Bradman on there too.
His stats are wild, though. His stats are absolutely wild, and we don't need to talk about Don Bradman because no one knows who he is. So, mention the name. People can Google.
But it's insane. Yeah, insane. If you know anything about cricket, the stats that he has are just absolutely insane.
Okay,
compared to the number 2.
And I think that's an important comment. But let's start quickly with a quick intro into who we are, a quick little bio, and like let's try to come up with some sort of resume for why we are doing this. So, and I think it would be fun to do the other person. So rather than talk about yourself, I want you to talk about me and I'm going to talk about you. So I'll start if you want, just so you can see where I'm going.
Because you had a chance to think about it.
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay. This is my show, bro. So Vincent Walter Dumas, 5'10" and 7/8.
Come on.
165 pounds. 39 years old. When he was 12 years old, he quit football to play hockey for a year and a half. It didn't work out. Played university basketball. Loves coaching his kids' baseball team. Hates the Houston Astros. And is one of the worst pitch and putt players I've ever seen.
How many birdies did you get?
How many did you get?
I got one.
What was your score though? A 9-hole pitch and putt. You shot like 68.
I thought we weren't keeping score.
Yeah, that's right. That's what we told Finn.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that kid just mashes. Okay.
Your turn.
My turn.
And Carl, feel free to jump in on my resume if you like.
Yeah.
Carl's probably the most qualified out of all three of us.
Okay, so Denny Dumas, I guess most of the people who listen to the show probably already know a little bit about you. But little brother, youngest of 3 brothers, second youngest of 6 children. And I guess you were kind of like, I was 8 years older than you. So it felt like you were kind of like, a little buddy. Like when I was growing up, we shared a room and had bunk beds, and he became like, a fantastic basketball player. Was the leading scorer on the provincial team. Went to North Dakota, who was a D2 school, to go play basketball, but they were going into D1. He transferred back to UBC, but and then has started a career in real estate and is having a real go of it. And now he's a celebrity on a podcast.
Yeah. Some nice words.
Way nicer than I was expecting.
Yeah.
Carl, anything to add?
No, I think that was a fantastic summary.
I was going to ask, have you ever recorded a podcast and then not aired it because it was so bad?
Negative.
Okay, because you were saying like this could go really good or really bad. And I was just wondering. I was thinking about that today. I was like, I wonder if there's a chance this doesn't get aired because it's so bad. But no. I don't think it'll be there.
We can edit stuff out, edit around stuff, Yeah.
Like that.
Honestly, man, Carl, with all 3 podcasts, how many have we done? 130, 140?
Probably around there, yeah.
We have only edited out stuff twice.
I think so.
Because the guest asked us to.
Oh, really?
So, like, honestly, the reason I love the podcast is just because it's just genuine conversation. And so to take something out just eliminates the honesty, I don't know, to me. Anyway, I love it. Thanks for that. That was a really nice bio. I don't know if I'd be that nice to myself, to be honest. I wrote down a bio for myself just in case you didn't have anything. And all I wrote down was 6'3", 185. 31 years old, used to be decent at basketball. I'm obsessed with the Seahawks and the PGA Tour. That's all. All right. The other point I just wanted to pull out, and it's more to just get a little bit of the blood flowing going into this, because I think it'd be more fun if we're a little bit heated, is, do you remember the first time I beat you in 101?
Oh.
Yeah. I do remember our record in 101.
Do you remember the
What's
age?
Our record?
Do you remember the age?
Yeah. Like, were you 17?
I was 13.
No, you were not 13.
Yeah. It was grade 8.
That's not true.
It was grade 8.
Carl, don't believe a word he's saying.
Do you want me to let you know how it happened?
Okay, you might have been. Maybe it was grade 11. Maybe you were 16. You were probably 16.
So, Carl, do you want to hear the honest story, or do you want to hear the fabricated Vinny version?
Let's hear both sides.
Let's hear your story. Let's hear your story.
It was 13. I was in grade 8. I think I had grown like 3 or 4 inches that year. I was like 6'1". Vinny was still 5'10" and 7/8. And Carl, I learned that I was bigger than him. And it took me a while to figure it out, but I learned that I was bigger than him. And I started backing him down a little bit in one-on-one. We used to play almost every day in the cul-de-sac when he was at home anyway, because he went to University of Manitoba, so he was away for a few years. But when he was home, we used to play all the time. And I started backing him down, and he starts trash talking me, saying like, "What are you, a post player now? You're gonna go play power forward?" And I beat him for the first time, and then it just gets like extremely physical.
Oh, for sure, backing down.
2 hands shoved to the chest. Someone goes up for a layup, their legs are getting chopped out. Like it's ridiculous. So we both come in the house yelling at each other. And my dad, who's like 5'2.5", gets in the middle of us and starts yelling. He's like, "You guys are never playing again." Just yelling at us. And so that was the end. So Vinny always talks about record because he beat me 180 times when I was 9. And I beat him for the first time. And then he's like, "Screw that. I'm not playing anymore."
Oh, man. You were like, there's no chance you were 13. I can't believe that you would even say that. I can't believe you'd even lie about that.
Big Peel, remember?
Yeah.
Big P.
We call Dad Big P. His name's Paul. He's about 5'2.5". That's how I call him Big P. Your story is a bit different, eh?
Oh man, like it couldn't have even been when you're in grade 8. Because what year was that? Like I wasn't even living here.
That was.
You know that you might. Okay, it might have been grade 11. You might have been 16.
Maybe 14, but definitely grade 9.
Okay, we're gonna have to agree to disagree on this one.
Right.
We can edit the story out, right, Carl?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Or Carl, maybe I can just tell you the story and you can edit that part in later.
It's going to be like a ridiculously mysterious like story. Vinny's going to be sitting in a park. There's going to be birds chirping in the background. He's going to be like, "It was on the day of August 31st, 2018. Denny turned 29 that day." And, all this bullshit.
Yeah, I had a broken leg too.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay. I think we need to first define how we are qualifying these people as the best athlete of all time. So, what is it to be athletic? What criteria are we using as best athlete? So, there's like so many different categories that we can use in this thing, right? So, like one is winning. Are they a winner? Did they win in the clutch? Did they perform better in the clutch? Like those types of things. 2 is like just physical attributes, like pure athleticism, speed, agility, strength, all that kind of stuff. Competitiveness kind of goes into like performing in the clutch and winning. Like world recognition, is that important? Longevity, like how long they played in their sport. The influence on the actual sport. So there's my top 2 guys completely changed the perception of their sport worldwide, which is absolute insanity to even comprehend how one human being can do that. So like, are there any other criteria that you would add to this list of like how you're judging these people?
No, but I think if you're talking about people who change the game more than anybody, this person's probably not on your list as number 1 athlete of all time, but nobody has ever changed the game as much as Jackie Robinson. Like I would say that he's up there. He's up there as in the greatest athletes of all time because of that. Because nobody's ever changed the game like he's changed the
game. I literally cannot argue with that at all. And his name came across my studies this afternoon, briefly.
Yeah.
But what I was trying to avoid was exactly what you said at the start. Trying to avoid people that I never actually saw playing. So whether we're calling this the best athlete of all time or the best athlete of, let's say, the last 30 to 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
Just like in our lifetime, who we actually had some experience with, who like we had that emotional connection to. Jackie Robinson obviously played before either of us were alive and completely changed the sport of baseball. Absolutely. But at the same time, we don't really have that emotional connection because we never actually got to see him perform.
Yeah. I obviously don't have the emotional connection, but I mean, what he did and what he did in the time that he did it, and it's unlike anything that's ever happened. I mean, maybe you could compare some like the way Muhammad Ali was, but Jackie Robinson, like he literally walked into stadiums being hated by everybody, and at the time, I remember like there's stories that people would talk about him like they were trying to decide who would be the right person to do this to break the color barrier, and they chose him in part for the type of person that he was. Like there was a chance that if he failed, like another like black athlete may not have played baseball. It might have been another 15 or 20 years, like if he was terrible. And because there would have been so many people that would just be saying, "I told you so, I told you so, I told you so." But he was unbelievable, and the things that he went through, and the pressure that he had, like he had on him to be perfect every single day, and he was with the rookie of the year his first year. Can you imagine? Like all these sports writers hate you, and they vote you rookie of the year. You're that much better than every other rookie. And then he was the MVP in his third year, I think it was, and he won World Series and I mean, and he was just an amazing athlete. Like I think he was, I want to say he was an All-American track, basketball, and baseball player at UCLA. Like Carl, you could prove me wrong on this if you fact check that he was actually All-American, but he was on those teams. I think he was All-American. I could be wrong about that one, but what he did is unlike anything anybody's ever done and probably will ever do again. And so I think he'd be in my top 5 for that reason. And I probably can't put him ahead of MJ, who obviously have got number 1, but he'd be in there.
Yeah, honestly, I can't argue with that at all. I don't know a ton about him. Like I've watched a couple movies that like are about his life. I don't know how much of that is accurate of how bad it actually was for him getting into a professional sports league, but it is it's cool to even look back at that stuff and see how far we've come in just like no one gives a shit right now.
Yeah.
So it's like it's exciting to grow up.
Can you help us win?
Exactly. It's exciting to grow up in a I don't know, community or a time where it doesn't matter. It's like, are you better than the other person? Great. You're going to play.
Yeah.
That was the way it was when I grew up. And obviously looking back and watching those movies, it's like crazy humbling and even strange to think that was a thing back then. But I guess that's what the internet does, is just like it equalizes everyone. I don't know.
Yeah. And sports equalizes everyone. Like there's such an emphasis on winning and competing that no matter what an owner thinks, like he just wants to win. And the general manager and whoever's making these decisions now, like they just want to win, and they're finding the best players. And it was different back then. Like it was crazy. I mean, you hear about the college basketball back in the day, and you hear about obviously baseball and college football and things like that, and the way it is now. It's almost the way we live. It's almost hard to believe that it was even that way back then. Yeah. Anyway, that's like he's not my number 1, but I thought he deserves like a lot of to be a big part of this conversation.
Absolutely deserves the mention. Again, like what I said at the beginning, is it's difficult for me to have like an emotional reaction and like a passionate argument about someone I never watched. So like the people that I'm going to mention are people that I've watched on TV. A couple of them I've seen live, of like people who I can completely relate to and like have seen their emotion while they're going through the challenges and all, while they're going through their big wins. So great mention. I'm excited that you gave him a shout out, but I want to start with, even just in Googling today, top male athletes of all time. And let's just make a note that like our emphasis is on male athletes, nothing against female athletes. Is just like, this is where this conversation is going. Top male athletes of all time. So number one in most of the, anything you Google, top male athletes of all time, top 50 male athletes of all time, whatever, most of them have MJ at number one. So I'd love to start there and just like share some of the criteria that has got him into a bunch of those lists and why he is thought of by so many as the best athlete of all time. This, obviously, The Last Dance, this documentary about him in his last year and his career basically, has sparked this conversation. And it's pretty cool. If you guys haven't watched it on Netflix, tune in. If you don't know a ton about basketball, it doesn't matter because it's like such a cool sports like upbringing. The whole thing of how he completely changed the game, how people play, it's wild. And honestly, tune in. Even me following a lot of his basketball career, even after he was done, like watching a bunch of his highlight videos and like trying to understand who he was and how he got there, there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff with their GM, with the politics of running a professional sports organization that like I obviously would not have seen as a 6, 8, 10-year-old watching him play. But let's start with him as the pinnacle, as someone that we're trying to make an argument almost with other people of why they would be in the conversation with him.
Yeah. I think from The Last Dance, like there's the one line, I'm sure like everybody knows this line who's been watching it, was by Roy Williams. And what did he say? He said something about, he had a conversation with MJ and he's like, you're going to have to work hard. And Michael Jordan was like, well, like I'm the best player in high school in the States. Like I've been working really hard. And he said like something along the lines of like, this is another level. Like if you want to be that great, because Jordan was telling him how great he wants to be, he's like, you're going to have to work hard. And he said from that point on, Jordan turned it on and he never turned it off. And I think that's like, you get into a mindset and it's just like, I think that's what separates like these top like athletes from anybody else. And like Michael Jordan, I mean, you can throw Jackie Robinson in there and like all these other athletes that we're going to talk about, like other people turn it on and off. And sometimes maybe just mentally they can't take it. But for some reason, this guy literally just never turned it off. And he got to the point where he was winning. When he learned how to win, when he finally beat the Pistons, he learned how to win. He literally never lost. Like he I guess he burned out and he had a midlife crisis and he played baseball for a year and a half. And then he came back and then he had that half a year where he wasn't in shape or whatever. But he never lost again. And like once he learned how to win, he just like never turned it off. And like that's just like unbelievable, because all these other guys, everyone else that we're talking about, had lost like in the middle of it, and at some point in their peak, like somebody got the best of them. And it seemed like in his peak, nobody ever got the best of him.
So there's one other human that I know of. Well, maybe two. But there's one or two other people that I know of that I've watched that in their peak, no one has ever got the best of them. And we're going to talk about them. But can we come back to the attributes of what we're qualifying as the best athlete of all time? So what you just said about MJ was winning in your prime, willing to win, like the will to win and never being beat in your prime. So would you put that as like the top attribute of how we're qualifying the best athlete of all time in this conversation? Is that it? Is being the best at your specific sport and winning?
Yeah. Well, the thing is in basketball, yes, because when you're a basketball player, you have one basketball player can have so much influence on winning and losing. Like, for example, like you go to like baseball, for example, and Barry Bonds had years where like what he was doing on the baseball diamond, and like whether you discount him because of steroids, then like that's another story, that's another topic. But the things that he did on the baseball diamond without winning were just like things that were never seen. And man, I wish I knew the stat. I can't remember, but he went, I think it was a matter of years, he went where he had more walks than swings and misses. Not strikeouts, swings and misses. And it was like a 3 years in a row or something like that. Like somebody can fact check this and tell me I'm wrong, but it was an extended period of time, not 1 year, that he had more walks than swings and misses. And it was like he had more intentional walks than strikeouts. And like just like the rate of home runs per at bats was just unbelievable. And so, but he didn't win the World Series, and he got his team to the World Series. But I mean, one guy batting out of 9, it's just different. Like on a basketball like court, you can be on the court the whole game or almost the whole game. You might sit, a couple minutes between the first and the second, a couple minutes between the second, the third, and the fourth, and that's it. And whereas in baseball, like you don't have that opportunity.
That's obviously that's like a super interesting point to bring up, like the intimidation factor, right? So someone like him, if people aren't super big into baseball, what does it mean to have more home runs than swing and misses? It's ridiculous. First of all, it basically means that pitchers are scared to throw the ball to you, so they're intentionally walking you because they're afraid that you're going to hit a home run off them. Like that is absolute insanity. And I think that's a really interesting point to even bring up and throw into that mix of characteristics of the best athlete of all time is intimidation factor. Other people playing against you are literally scared to play against you.
Yeah. Yeah. The best players in the world are scared to play against you. They're scared to throw the ball to you. Like, they're scared to guard you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to let me throw out some stats from MJ. And I'll just read through this list really quickly. He basically won everything. Everything. I don't know what there was out there that he didn't win. So he won an NCAA championship. He was the rookie of the year in the NBA. He won 6 NBA titles. He was 6 for 6. So every single time he got to the finals, he won. Every single time he got to the finals.
I think that's an overrated stat. I'll let you finish your stats, but that's an overrated stat. Winning every time. But go on. But that's what we'll get to when we compare it to LeBron. Anyway, go on.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
Because it's still better to get there than not get there.
Disagree.
So if you're getting there every single time and you're winning some and you're losing some, it's better than not getting there and winning every time. Right?
I don't know about that. Let's move on.
Okay. I'm still not putting LeBron in.
He won 5 NBA MVPs, NBA season MVPs. He won 10 NBA scoring titles. He was 14-time NBA All-Star out of 15 seasons that he played in the league. He was a 9-time defensive first team All-Star. That is crazy.
That's
he won
crazy.
10
That's
NBA
so
scoring leaders. He was 10-time NBA scoring leader and also 9-time first team defensive team.
That's crazy. You think of like James Harden and Carmelo Anthony, guys who are winning scoring championships, like they're scoring leaders over the last 10 or 12 years. Like they're nowhere to be seen on the defensive end. Like
exactly.
Like this guy, that's unreal.
He won an NBA Defensive Player of the Year. The only guy I could think of who is like that prolific scoring and also a good defender is Kevin Durant.
Is Kevin Durant?
Yeah.
Did you say? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what about LeBron? LeBron and Kobe? Kobe is a good defender.
Did Kobe ever win a Defensive Player of the Year?
I don't know if he ever won Defensive Player of the Year. Has LeBron ever won Defensive Player of the Year?
I don't think LeBron has.
Do you know that?
LeBron has. Let me check.
LeBron has not. No.
I think KD did, didn't he?
Oh, really? I don't think so.
I thought he did.
But Kobe did make the All Defensive Team, the first team 8 times.
Oh, wow.
8 times?
Kobe made it 8 times.
Okay.
Yeah. What about LeBron?
Carl, do you want to look up LeBron?
How many times he defensive?
Yeah. So, okay, then moving on with Jordan, he won the dunk contest twice, which is just like pure athleticism. He won 2 Olympic gold medals. And then then we can talk about records, right? Like, I like talking about records. So career best points per game, Michael Jordan, 30.12. Career best playoff points per game, 33.5. He had, this is a ridiculous stat, 866 games in a row, double-digit points. 866 games. Most points in a playoff game, 63. This is a crazy stat too, Vinny. He's never, in his 6 NBA finals, he never scored less than 20 points in one game.
That's unbelievable.
So
like, obviously, sorry, go ahead.
LeBron never won Defensive Player of the Year.
No.
Oh, okay.
Was he on the defensive first?
Yeah, many times. Lots.
How many? Did it say?
7, I think.
7? Okay. Because I think he's been in the league, 16,
LeBron James has the all-time record, so 12.
12 defensive
Sorry, that's
team.
all-star team. That's the first 5 times. So defensive teams is 5 times. But the all-star team is 12 times, which is pretty crazy.
Michael Jordan's 14 NBA all-stars.
Oh, shit.
Are you meaning all-star game, or you mean defensive team? Like first,
the
second,
all NBA
or third?
team, yeah.
All NBA team. So Jordan was not 14 times all NBA?
I don't know. Here it says that.
So he was just 14-time all-star.
Right.
The things I wrote down was 14-time all-star. I think he was first team all-star, 13 of those, and second team 1. If I remember correctly from all this shit I was looking up to. Mm-hmm. But then you talk about, like, obviously we talk about emotion, Vinny, and like the things I remember from watching Jordan as a kid was obviously winning, was just like extreme competitiveness, was like, I remember kids asking me while I was playing basketball when I was in grade 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like, why is your tongue out? Why is your tongue out when when you're going up for an open layup? I'm like, obviously, because MJ's doing it, bro. Like, wake up. Like that kind of stuff. Like, I didn't want any other basketball shoes or clothing other than like Jordan brand, right? Like, he had that big of an influence. Like, I didn't give a crap about John Stockton and like, like I hated Karl Malone, but like those guys. And Sean Kemp was sweet. He was fun to watch, but I didn't want to buy his shoes. It was always Michael Jordan. He was just like the absolute icon for 15 years.
Yeah. Yeah. What he did and the way he did it, it was like, I don't think I'll ever see that again. And
ever.
And like, I want to compare people to him. And I think I probably would just want to compare people to him. Like, I want to compare LeBron to him. And it's such a different career and he's a different player. But what he's doing is just so amazing. It's unbelievable, but it's just not there. Like I think it's close, and I think it's number 2. It's just not there. And it's just what he did was unbelievable. And I think how you get down to it is just that mindset of he worked so hard to get there. And like you said, like that quote said, and he never turned it off. He just like kept going and going and going. And some people hated, some teammates hated him for it, and they didn't like him, and the people that couldn't keep up with him they just crumbled. Like the other players that couldn't keep up with him crumbled, but the guys that could keep up with him, like they really thrived. Like obviously Pippen's career is a lot of it, and he's up there in best basketball players of all time. Probably a lot of that is because of Jordan.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting to hear Jordan, though, in the documentary talk about how he wouldn't have been where he is now without having a Pippen beside him.
Yeah, for sure.
Because like watching and, again, I was like between 5 and 10 years old when the Bulls went on this big run, right? Mm-hmm. So I was young. I wasn't really like understanding all the details and politics behind a professional sports franchise. But like I was looking at it as Jordan is the best player of all time. It's not even a question. And Scottie Pippen is better because Michael Jordan is the best player of all time. Whereas like looking back and watching it now, like, and understanding Jordan's comments with a big like 6-ounce scotch beside him, like as a hefty amount of scotch he had.
I read
just understanding.
I read somewhere.
Yeah, you mentioned that. Oh yeah, you mentioned that. Okay,
maybe it's his own tequila brand. But anyway, right, sorry.
Just trying to do the George Clooney thing, or
yeah. I don't know.
Just like basketball is a weird sport where yes, one individual can dominate, but like you can't really win without other stars, other people on the team.
Yeah.
So like they just kind of had the perfect storm where Rodman was like one of the best defensive players in the league for a decade. The best rebounder in the league for a decade.
Yeah, Ron
Pippen
Harper was one of the best defensive players in the league. He was an awesome defensive player.
And then they had a bunch of just like super solid role players, right?
Yeah.
And then Scottie and Jordan just did whatever they wanted.
Yeah, and Kukoc was an awesome player too. Kukoc might have been a guy that would average 25 points a game if he was on a crappy team, right? But but he played an awesome role on that team, and he was a great player on that team.
Steve Kerr made a couple big shots.
Yeah, yeah. But we talk about that, and so we're talking about best athletes best athletes ever. So that's a point for LeBron because he has not played with the players that Jordan played with, and not even close. Like totally. He had a run with Dwayne Wade, who's not Scottie Pippen. He had a run with like Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love, who played sometimes, didn't play sometimes, and clearly are not good enough to be the best player on the team. And just by obviously what's happened to them since they've left being with him. And so who has he had with him, and what has he done without anybody? Like those times he went to championships with nobody. Like the time Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving were injured. They were both injured in the final, and they took the Warriors to Game 6. Like what he was doing in that final, it was like it wasn't like anything I've ever seen before in my life, and like almost including what Jordan did. It was almost better than what I've ever seen Jordan do. What he did in that, like Carl, you can check stats, and I'm probably wrong, but like there were like 40, 10 and 10 games. There were 40, 15 and 12 games. Like it was unreal. Like he was just carrying that team, and he's done things that I've never seen before.
Okay,
and that's why I'd have him at number 2 in NBA and in the top 5 athletes of all time.
I don't disagree. Do you want to take this conversation in a way that we just briefly mention a handful of people, quickly throw out some numbers, and then move on to our like competitors? Or do you want to talk about who is competitive to Jordan right now?
Sure,
I say let's get the others out of the way quickly, and then let's spend some more time on who I think are the top 3.
Okay. And there's one other topic that I want to talk about, and what sport is more important than other sports? And in the way of athletes, because a sport that there's like 2 to 10 million people in the world playing, and you're the best ever at that, is that as important as a sport that there's like 250 to like 400 million people playing? And that's one stat that I was looking at today, is like how many people globally play each sport. And so I've got that, so we can talk about that. But anyway, let's start going through these other guys.
That's an interesting comment, because like for me as a spectator, I appreciate greatness in anything. So like when the Olympics comes on, there's sports on there that I will absolutely not spend 1 second of my life watching in between those 4 years, right?
Yep.
Like, I will never watch javelin, ever. But the person that wins the gold medal in javelin, I'm pumped. I'm like, wow, that person must be like, they probably worked extremely hard to get there. They're probably pretty athletic. Like, it's impressive. You know, there's so many little sports like that in the Olympics I appreciate. But at the same time, like, how can you compare that person as the greatest athlete of all time to a sport like, I don't know, what are the top 5 sports in the world? Soccer?
Of people playing?
Yeah.
Like the number of people playing?
Okay,
so soccer number 1, basketball number 2, cricket number 3, I think. I don't know if cricket's number 2, but because some of these numbers you don't know exactly where they're getting them from. And then after that, of the sports that we're talking about, it drops a lot. There might be a sport out there that there's more people playing because it's played in India, like kabaddi or something like that I just don't like, that we're not going to talk about, obviously. But I mean, like we're talking about, so we've got soccer, basketball, and then cricket. It's a big sport. And then you get into baseball and golf, and then you get to hockey and football. And so football, there's 1.2 million people play. Hockey, 2 million. Baseball, softball is 65 million. Golf is 60 million. Although I think a lot of those 60 million are people that play after they're trying to be competitive. So I don't know. That's a tough one. I don't know how many actual people play trying to be competitive, trying to get to the PGA Tour. And then you get up into soccer and basketball, which are huge. So are the top 50 soccer players of all time the top 50 athletes of all time then? Because like obviously the top athletes in the world play soccer because the best athletes in the most of these countries are like obvious, just go to soccer. If they would have decided that they wanted to play, hockey, football, baseball, like they would have been the best. They would have been the best at that if they decided that's what they wanted to play. But I mean, obviously it wasn't available in their country.
Soccer is a really, really interesting sport where there's too many people on the field. So if you are a ridiculously good athlete,
hard to have value.
It's so tough, right? It's the same as cricket, probably. Like, it's the same as baseball, that if you're the best batter in the entire world, you only bat every one out of 9 times still, right?
Yeah.
It's the same as soccer. Like, you touch the ball for what? The game's 90 minutes. You probably have the ball at your feet for a minute and a half.
Yeah.
Less? 45 seconds? I don't know.
Probably somewhere around there.
Yeah. Like Lionel Messi.
Yeah.
One of the best athletes of all time. Totally in the conversation. But how do you, like, when you look at his actual stats in soccer, how do you compare him to a Michael Jordan who completely changes sport? How do you compare him to a Tiger Woods who completely changes sport? But their sports are so different.
And
like
their
Tiger Woods, it's individual.
Yeah, but their sport was so good before they started. And so they're stepping into an already more competitive sport. Michael Jordan Magic Johnson and Larry Bird started basketball becoming more competitive and getting better and really drawing attention to basketball. And then Michael Jordan took it to a whole new level. Sure. Whereas all these guys that we're talking about in soccer, it was already the most competitive sport in the world when they stepped in. And they became the best in the most competitive sport in the world. And Tiger Woods, I'm not taking anything away from these guys. Like, yes, Tiger Woods is in my list as well. But he's changed golf so much that he couldn't do today what he did then. Because there's just 100%. So much more competition now. And 100%. And I don't know if anybody else could have done it the way he did it. Probably nobody else could have done it the way he did it. But
no chance.
But do these soccer players get less marks because they stepped into a more competitive sport? Like, or do they get lower marks on this list because they stepped into a sport that was already more competitive when they started?
I just think they're harder to judge as the best athlete of all time because of that, right?
Yeah. And you're right. The 1 of 11 is a...
If you're born in a shit country, you're never going to win a World Cup, right?
Yeah.
If you're the best athlete of all time and you're born in Brazil, you're probably going to win a few World Cups. If you're the best athlete and of all time, and you're born in Trinidad and Tobago, you're not going to win a World Cup ever, right?
Yeah. Well, like, just so you know, like one of the guys on this soccer list, Johan Cruyff, the great Dutch soccer player. I'm probably saying that name wrong. I'm butchering it, and so I'm sorry to soccer fans. But like they talk about him as the greatest European player of all time, and they had a great team. I think they went to the World Cup final, but they never won a World Cup. But he has like tons of awards and league championships and things like that. But I mean, he's probably in this list, and like I don't really know him. I mean, he played before like I would have ever seen, and I just didn't watch a lot of European soccer growing up, so I wouldn't have really known anyway. But like he should be on that list, and he never won a World Cup. So is winning that important on this list? Now I don't know.
That'd be the same as Messi, right? Like he brought his team to a World Cup final, but they didn't win. He's won a stupid amount of La Liga, which is like the Spanish league. Where's my Messi comments? Messi's won 10. So he's won 10 Spanish league championships. He's won 4 Champions League, which is outrageous. Like he's won FIFA Player of the World one time. But like it's hard to look at all of that. He's got the most goals in the Spanish league ever, 438. It's hard to look at that and compare to like a Michael Jordan where the stat list is just so long and what he did for the sport is so much greater. So it's hard to it's difficult, especially as someone like me. I'll admit I'm not passionate about soccer. It's not something I watch all the time. I get pumped about the World Cup. I'll watch all the games in the World Cup. I think it's extremely fun and emotional and crazy.
Yep.
But like I'm not watching the EPL weekly. I'm not watching La Liga weekly.
Yep.
So anyway.
Me neither.
Okay, let's mention
but the best athletes in the world play soccer. The best athletes in the world under 6 foot, whatever. 3, 4, like under 6 foot. Right? Like, and then the best athletes in the world that height play basketball. No, but it's true, right? The best short athletes in the world play soccer, and the best tall athletes in the world play basketball. And then from there, like obviously there's amazing athletes that play other sports, but those are just the most popular sports in the world. Like, and so the best athletes in those countries are just going to gravitate towards those sports. And then from there, it's going to go, like, obviously there's areas of the world that baseball is the most popular. There's areas of the world that hockey is the most popular. So some of the best athletes go to those sports instead. But in the majority of the world, those are the 2 sports.
I don't know about that.
Go ahead.
I don't know about that. Because again, we go back to this first question of like, how do we define world's best athlete? How do we define athleticism? Mm-hmm. And you're commenting more on like physical attributes. So is that a more important topic in this, or is it winning? Or is it the influence on the entire sport itself?
Yeah, like I think it all comes into play. And that's why the 20th best soccer player in the history of the world isn't on this list. Although athletically wise, he probably is one of the best. Right? And because it was so much more competitive for him to get to where he was than it was for people in other sports, because they're just competing against a fewer amount of people. Like if you have to compete against 1 million people versus competing against like 500 million people, it's harder. It's harder to get there. But you're right. Who is the best player in each sport is going to be on the list, and that 30th person will not, even though like there's a chance he was better, but we'll never know that. Nobody will ever know that.
But it comes back to the question of like, how do you define better? So I guess it's personal preference, because when I'm looking at like who I have written down on these pieces of paper, it is yes, physical attributes, but it is like who has excelled the most, and excel to me is win. So like in basketball, I have Michael Jordan and LeBron James for somewhat different reasons. I have Tiger Woods, who is potentially number 1. I have Wayne Gretzky, whose stats are just outrageously comically good. Like,
it's unbelievable.
Stupid. It's stupid. It makes no sense.
I kind of knew what his stats were, but I just looked them up today. He has ridiculous. 936 more points than the second place player. Like 936 more points. Like that's how many? That's like 9 good seasons for a good hockey player. Like that's unbelievable. That's like 5 MVP seasons. Like that's ridiculous.
Well, okay, we'll talk about him. It makes no sense. And then like Roger Federer, obviously for tennis. So like all of my people are basically the best at their sport. So I guess to me, in my head, it's like who is the best at their sport, and then we'll consider them basically.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'd like you to mention like a few people who need a quick mention, but aren't going to be more than a couple minute conversation.
Okay, the one thing that I want to say is it's really hard to put a football player on the list because 100%. I feel like they're so specified in what they do, and again, they're one of 11, and like they do one specific thing. Like I think the number one NFL player that I would have on the list is Lawrence Taylor,
Russell Wilson,
and like I mean, yeah. Yeah, I guess if you're just going on emotions, if that's the number one thing, and then the other one's obviously Tom Brady. Like Tom Brady's in there, and then maybe Jim Brown. I don't know. If you hate their team, does that make a difference on the list?
Yes, absolutely it does. Dude, Tom Brady is not even in the top 200,000 athletes of all time.
Like sucks. Sprinters athletes or like he is okay. We don't need to talk about him because I think we all know where he stands, and we know that you don't want to talk about him. Sucks. Nate won't even let me. Nate's my oldest son. He won't even let me say his name. We say Voldemort instead of Tom Brady. Yeah.
I honestly I agree, and I had a conversation with Tim. Called me this morning, or Vinny.
Yeah.
And he's like, "What are you up to today?" And I said, "Oh, actually, I'm doing a podcast with Vinny about athletes." And obviously, Tim wants his 2 cents in there. So Tim says, "I have to talk about Bo Jackson." And when I look
Bo Jackson's on my list. He's in my list on other. Like he's not in football. He's not in I categorized each sport, and I just put him in other. And the note is just like could have been, because he was unlike anybody that you've ever seen before doing what he did.
Totally.
He did stuff that nobody has ever done and maybe never will. And he did it for a really short amount of time. And he never got to his peak. Like he never got to his real prime. Like he was just getting into his prime. So, yeah.
So, anyway,
could have been.
I have a few comments about Bo Jackson. One, I never watched him play, so I can't comment emotionally, personally. He was kind of before my time. When did he play? Like mid 80s or something? Late 80s?
I would say more like late 80s.
Yeah. Late 80s.
Late 80s, early 90s. Yeah, okay, early.
So like his stats are not great. Athletically, to play 2 sports at the best level in the world is unbelievably unimaginable. It's crazy. He was one of the best running backs in the league for 4 years in the NFL. He was in the league for 4 years. He won the Heisman Trophy. He went to 1 Pro Bowl. He was the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. His best year was 950 yards as a running back, which is not exceptional. He had 5 touchdowns in his best year, which is not exceptional. 5.4 yards per carry.
How many games though?
He only ever
played the whole season, right?
Totally. He played 11 games in his highest season. Usually played 8 to 11 games in his career.
Right.
And then MLB, he played 9 seasons. His batting average in those 9 seasons was 250. He went to 1 All-Star game. He had 1 year that he had 100 RBIs, which is great. Fantastic, but 1 year.
Yeah.
And he had 130 home run season. So Tim talked to me about this Bo Knows commercial, and he's like, you got to watch this Bo Knows bullshit. I think Bo knows he should have focused on one sport, man. If he focused on one sport, he could have been one of the best athletes in the world, right? But he did too many things, and he was pretty good at both.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is unbelievable, right? Not many people in the world.
It's unbelievable to be able to play two and have the teams let you play two. To have a team that has a contract with you, paying you millions of dollars, think that you're good enough that it's okay that you go and play another sport.
Yeah.
Like that's what's amazing. But you're right. Like he can't be in there because of the stats, but like what he meant and those, I mean, those like, and maybe it was more Nike. Maybe it was more Nike doing it than actually Bo. Maybe. But I mean, those Nike commercials were just insane. Like he was equivalent to Michael Jordan at that time in popularity. And maybe I'm exaggerating this, but but I might not be. I mean, it was unbelievable. Those Bo Nose commercials with like, you had to have a Bo Nose t-shirt at that time, like in the late 80s, early 90s. Like it was unbelievable.
So you say popularity of Michael Jordan. Do you think that was North America?
I think it was, obviously it's more in North America, but it's worldwide.
You think he had the same popularity?
The popularity of basketball. Worldwide? Oh, sorry. Bo is North America. Michael Jordan was worldwide. Bo Jackson was. I think it was just North America. Just North America. Okay. But he was playing two North American sports.
Right.
Well, although maybe basketball might have been more North American then, and Michael Jordan made it a real global sport. Like it's a global sport now more than it was back then.
Yeah. Okay. Who else do we need to mention? I've got a few. Do you want me to go? Yeah, why don't you go through your list quickly and then I'll go through mine.
Okay. So other people that I want to mention is or Usain Bolt and Michael Phelps.
100%.
I think you have to mention Usain Bolt, and I think you have to mention Michael Phelps. So we can talk about that later. But the only reason you wouldn't mention Michael Phelps is the number of people playing that sport. Like how many people are you actually competing against? And then NHL, Gretzky, Bobby Orr. Like I want to say Mario Lemieux, but again, his stats are top 10 in hockey, but injuries ended his career. And then baseball, I've got like Babe Ruth. You have to talk about Babe Ruth. He has the overall career lead in OPS and WAR. So if you're not a baseball fan, you may not know what these are, but OPS is on base plus slugging, and then WAR is wins above replacement, which are two like the two kind of like most important for batters, and like it's unbelievable. He's the leader in both of those two things, and the stories about Babe Ruth are just like he was like Michael Jordan mentally, like his obsession with getting better. And I mean, there's a cool story about him when he was a rookie. He came in as a rookie as a pitcher for the Red Sox, and they were people were kind of like giving him a hard time or whatever because he wanted to take batting practice every day, and the other players, and back like this is 100 years ago, right? But other players, they were just like making fun of him and saying, just focus on pitching. Why are you wanting to bat? But he was just obsessed, and he would hit every day, and he'd be working on his swing like no other back then. And obviously eras are different and things are different now, and I'm sure people work on their swing more than he did back then. But I mean, he was doing something that nobody else in the world was doing, and what he did to those two pitchers and what he did was just insane. And he's got to be in there in the top 5 as well, because of what he did compared to everybody else in this sport, in the most popular sport in North America at that time.
Do you think the amount of cigarettes he hacked hurts his athletic ability?
Yeah. Okay, do you want me to answer that seriously or joking? Because I mean, like that was just life back then, right? Like
I know.
I mean, like that was life in the 70s and 80s. You see Vlade Divac get off the plane and like with a cigarette in his mouth, like going to the game. So I mean, like that was just life. That was just life back then. I think. I think like that is blown out of proportion. He was obsessive. Like he was so like the stories of him are obsessive. And then I do want to mention. I know this is like we're talking about male athletes, but like you have to mention like Babe Didrikson, Jackie Joyner-Kersee, Serena Williams, Mia Hamm, and then some basketball players: Diana Taurasi, Cheryl Miller, Tamika Catchings, Maya Moore. Like some of the things that these women have done are just like unbelievable. And I know we said we're not, we're kind of trying to focus on male athletes because that's what we know more about and that's what we've watched more. But I mean, some of the things that these women have done are unreal as well. So anyway, I think the other person that needs to be in there is Muhammad Ali, and then we don't need to talk about Don Bradman, but what he did to cricket, which is either the second or third most popular sport in the world, was insane. It was like Babe Ruth insane. It was like Michael Jordan or Pele insane.
Mm-hmm. I would like to.
I think that's my list. I've got Hank Aaron and Willie Mays on that list as well.
I'd like to
Barry Bonds.
Just talk about a few stats of these people. So let's talk about Michael Phelps first. So swimming is an interesting sport where you do multiple events, where he swam like 8-10 events in the Olympics. So but 28 Olympic medals, 23 gold, 39 world records set, which is stupid. Like, think about that.
Crazy.
He had 8 gold in 1 Olympics, which is crazy. His first Olympics was
you're winning a gold medal every second day. You're winning a gold medal. Like, you get a gold medal.
That's why it's a bit of a strange sport, right? Like, how do you compare him swimming in 8-10 events per Olympics to a Usain Bolt, who is a ridiculous athlete who runs 2 to 3 events, right? It's just very different versus like Michael Jordan playing in Olympic basketball, who has one, you played
1 medal,
7 games and there's 1 medal, right? Plays the same amount of times as Michael Phelps, but there's 1 medal versus 8. So I think Phelps is in a conversation just because he is like the most ridiculous thing we've seen in his sport ever. And he has all these records. Same as Usain Bolt. Crazy athlete. Could he be good at other sports? I don't know. But like his world records still stand. No one's beating him.
And there's a guy with a mindset that once he started winning, like, he'd never lost. And I know he lost races, and I don't think he won every world championship race, but I mean, he won every Olympic for, was it 12 years? No, not
so
9 or 3 Olympics in a row, right? Was it 3 in a row?
I'll correct you on that. He won 8 Olympic golds, 3 consecutive for 100 and 200 meter.
Won 9 Olympic golds. He got one taken away because one of the guys on his relay team, I think, got like something happened, got taken away years later.
All right.
Is that true, or is that? I believe that's accurate. I think he won 9, and then one ended up being taken away. Sorry, I'll let you speak.
He won 11 world championships, and he won from 2009 to 2015. He won every world championship for 100 meter and 200 meter. And and 4x1. The only one he lost was a false start in the 100 meter in 2011, from 2009 to 2015.
Wow.
So crazy. And when you look at that sport, like, is there any more penalizing sport for a race? So you're in the 100 meter final. If you false start, it's not like it's a warning. You get kicked out of the race.
It's crazy, hey?
It's insane.
It's like,
It's crazy. It's like a strikeout in baseball, you get thrown out of the game. It's like the same thing.
Yeah, they should just move him back like a meter.
Yeah. That'd be good.
Let him run the race, but let him run the race, but move him back 1 meter or something. Every false start, you move back a meter.
That'd be good. And he still holds. I think he got these in like 2000. I don't know the year, 2014, 2016 or something. The 100 meter world record 9.58 still stands. 200 meter record 19.19 still stands.
That's crazy to hold both of those. I feel like that is an unbelievable thing to hold both of those world records. I don't know if anybody's ever had both of them at the same time before. Like, I don't know that, but it feels crazy because it feels like you're training 2 different ways for 2 different things. I realize they're both sprints, but I mean, a 200 sprint, there's a reason why 200 sprinters and 100 sprinters, like, sometimes they do, but I mean, there's a reason why they're often different people. And
they are very different people, right? The 100 meter sprinters are like bulkier dudes with big legs, right? Whereas the 200-meter sprinters are usually thinner guys, more longevity.
Michael Johnson was the only one, and he did it in the 200-meter and the 400-meter to win a gold.
Yes, the gold shoes.
2 and 4,
the gold shoes.
Right.
I remember him. And then I think we need to just talk about Wayne Gretzky for a few minutes. I think he deserves it. So most goals ever, 894. Most goals in a season, 87. When you look at his so he played in 1,485 games. He averaged 1.92 points per game in his career. He averaged 2 points in his career, 2 points per game in his career. That's insane. Right. So most assists ever, 1962. Most assists in the play, including the playoffs, 22. Most assists in one season, 163. 163. That's 2 per game.
Yeah.
plus 80 goals. It's ridiculous. Oh. Most points in a season, 215. Most points in his career, 2856. So when you talk about points, so he had 2,856 points in his career. The next best was 1,006 behind at 1,850.
Crazy.
He won 9 league MVPs. He won 8 straight league MVPs.
It's crazy that they kept giving him MVPs. Because in basketball,
right?
At some point,
don't do it.
It's like Jordan should have been MVP 10 times, maybe not 10, but close to that. But I'll give it to Barkley one year. We'll give it to Malone. But they just kept giving it to him. He was that much better. They're just like, no, we got to keep giving it to him. Like it would be that embarrassing not giving it to him this year.
So that's a good point that you brought up, Vin, because that's the most MVPs in any North American sports league. 9.
Wow.
So you're right. The other leagues, like we've seen great players like Michael Jordan, LeBron, that they just don't give it to every year.
Yeah.
He only won the playoff MVP twice. And he won 4 Stanley Cups, 1 Olympic gold. But those season stats, talk about a guy that comes to play every single game in a long 80-game season. It's ridiculous.
That's crazy.
It's crazy.
There's no other sport with somebody that has that dominant numbers.
No, 100%.
Obviously Jordan's not. Obviously Babe Ruth's not. Obviously nobody in soccer is. I don't know. Maybe there's somebody with more dominant numbers in a team sport, but I don't know of it. Maybe, you know what, the other, I know we don't want to talk about Don Bradman, but it's pretty dominant. So really quickly, he averaged, so in cricket, there's hundreds of runs in a game. He averaged between 99 and 102. I've seen the stat differently. Runs per game himself. That's how many he scored. The next best averaged 72. So he's 30. He's 30 more than the next best, which is, I think, as dominant as some of those Gretzky numbers. Sorry, we don't need to talk about cricket anymore, but it's crazy what he did. Okay.
What years did he play?
What's my last? I don't know that.
Was he a 50s
I want to
guy?
say, no, I want to say it was before that even. My guess it's even before that, in 40s, 50s kind of thing.
Okay.
But I don't know that. I didn't watch many of his games.
No? You haven't watched a game tape with Dad?
No.
Dad had a bunch of VHSs.
Oh, man. Yeah, we used to listen to it in the car. So for those of you who don't know, our dad is Australian, and he used to rave to us about Don Bradman, so that's why we know about him. And we used to we literally used to listen to his audio tapes in the car, and his it was just his life story. And he was talking about him going on a train and drinking tea with this lady. It was pretty awesome, actually. Not at the time, but it is now.
I think before we get into the top 3, who we think are the competitors, I think we needed to just mention Roger Federer and what he's done for his sport. His stats are ridiculous. Tennis is a really cool sport that I wish I appreciated more, and I wish I watched more. It's just, I don't know. It's a long one-on-one battle that is a lot of the same, and I just never grew up playing it. But like looking at Roger Federer, first in Grand Slam wins at 20. He's been to 31 finals in Grand Slams, which is crazy. He's won 8 Wimbledons, which is number 1. But then you look at so there's another guy that I never even really knew I think he was in the 70s and 80s, Jimmy Connors, who...
Wow. I can't believe that you're thinking of him as greatest athlete of all time. Like, I don't think of him as one... Jimmy Connors?
Well, I don't know if he's the greatest athlete of all time, but I'm saying it hurts Roger Federer.
Oh, why is that? Okay, go for it. Tell me why.
Because he's won more matches and he's had more tournament wins than Roger Federer. He's the only person. So Roger Federer has 103 tournament wins. Mm-hmm. Jimmy Connors has 109.
So I think that doesn't mean anything. I think back then you're probably just playing tournaments every week, or you're probably going from tournament to tournament. But how many majors did he win? I think that's all that matters.
I think he won 13, if I remember correctly.
13. Oh, okay. So I mean, so he's up. So he's up there, but he's in the top 8 tennis players of all time, maybe 5 or 6 tennis players of all time.
Yeah.
But he's not Federer. He's not Nadal. He's not Sampras. He's after those guys.
I don't think he's even.
He's probably after. He's probably after Rod Laver. I don't know.
But he's definitely after Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, and Sampras. The only reason I mention him is because he's first in those 2 categories, and I had never heard of him before. I looked him up today. Anyway, I think Roger Federer deserves a mention. I think he's probably the greatest tennis player of all time. I don't follow tennis a lot, but how dominant he's been. He won 5 Wimbledons in a row.
Crazy.
That's insane. I don't know if anyone's won 3 in a row.
Wow. Anyway, I wouldn't know that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. There's one other that do you just discount this guy because it's a machine, not doing the work? Michael Schumacher? Is he discounted off this list?
I don't know a lot about. He's Formula 1?
Yeah.
So if anyone hasn't watched the Formula 1 show on Netflix, highly, highly recommend. I am not a racing fan at all, nor would I ever sit down and watch a long Formula 1 race on TV. But that documentary, I don't know, Carl and Vinny, if you guys have watched it, so good. Addicting.
Just a little bit. A lot of it. Oh, yeah.
It's so good. So they just released the 2nd season maybe a few weeks ago, and I watched the entire 2nd season in 2 nights. It's so good.
Really?
I think it's only 8 episodes, so it's I don't know, 40 minutes, 10 episodes, whatever that is, 2.5 hours a night. But it was great. It was really good.
Yeah. Yeah. So we don't need to get into his stats, I guess, but is he, but I mean, he should be on the list. It's a sport. I mean, whether it's my sport or not, or your sport or not, I guess it's a sport. I mean,
so the interesting thing I learned about watching that sport or watching that documentary in Formula 1 is the team that you drive for makes a complete difference. The best driver in the world on a fourth to 8th team will never win.
Right.
The top 4 teams just have so much more money, spend so much more on their car, that their car is way better than everyone else's car. So right now in this show in 2019, for the last season of this documentary, Mercedes, Ferrari are ahead of everyone else. The Red Bull team is close, and the Renault team, there's 4 cars out of 20 that race every week that have a chance at winning as long as they don't crash. Because the cars are better.
Yeah.
So it's difficult. I don't know much about Michael Schumacher, nor do I know much about the sport. But in watching this documentary, the sense that I get is there's such an advantage of being with a better team Like whether you're drafted to the Seattle Seahawks or, the Pittsburgh Steelers or whoever, you still like are working with a group of humans, whereas like the actual car makes a huge difference in that sport.
Yeah.
But anyway, tell me about Michael Schumacher, because I don't know a ton about him.
No, I don't really know stats, but I know he dominated the sport for years. So I didn't look up stats. I didn't even have him on my list. But when we started talking about tennis, we're talking about Europeans pretty much. And so I was thinking, well, like, then is Michael Schumacher on this list? So that's the only reason I brought him up. What he did and the records that he has are amazing, but I don't know. I don't know what they are. Carl might be able to look them up, but I don't know what they are.
So Lewis Hamilton drives for Mercedes. Yeah. He's the best Formula One driver right now. He's won 6 of the last 7 world championships.
Wow.
But again, like best driver in the sport, and in the show they make that pretty clear. But at the same time, like his partner, who is not one of the best drivers in the sport, also finishes like in the top 5 in the world championship rankings because his car is better than everyone else.
Right.
Anyway, I don't want to discredit Michael Schumacher. I don't know anything about him. But
yeah.
Okay. I want to talk about top 3.
Okay. You want to talk about Tiger Woods. So let's talk about Tiger Woods.
Well, so let's talk about LeBron James first.
Sure. Okay.
Because stats-wise, it doesn't really match up to Michael Jordan. Physicality-wise, far ahead of Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
They're difficult to compare, right? They played in different generations. He is like probably by far the most ridiculous human I've ever seen do anything. Like it looks like he's playing against small children. It looks like me playing against your kid, Vinny. Like me playing one-on-one against Nate. Nate's 9. I'm 31. It's just he's different.
Yeah.
It makes no sense, a lot of the things that he does, and I've never seen any other person ever do those things. So athletic wise, if you're talking about physical athleticism, I can't confidently say one person ever born on this earth has been a better physical athlete than LeBron James ever.
Yep, I would agree with that.
Carl?
The greatest physical specimen of all time.
All time.
Mm-hmm.
And so obviously then there's the winning thing that we talk about in this greatest athlete of all time. NBA championships. And I think he's been to 8. He went to 8 in a row. That is wild.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Has anyone else been to 8 in a row?
I don't. Maybe Bill Russell. No.
Back in the day, yeah.
What the Celtics?
Didn't the Celtics win like
were going
10
all the
out of
time.
11 or something?
Yeah, so they might have lost one in the middle. So they might have, but they were winning almost. Yeah, I don't know how many. He might have won 10 or 11 championships. Bill Russell. But you're right. And what LeBron's done, and I think the championships is a hard one to. I think it's hard to discredit him for not winning these championships because Jordan never won until he got Pippen. And LeBron has gone to the finals so many times without anybody. And I shouldn't say he's gone to the finals so many times without anybody, but he's gone to the finals without anybody. And I mean, he did it twice in Cleveland. The first championship they lost in Cleveland before he went to Miami. Obviously, he went with nobody. And then I think the first one, Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving were injured. I think Kyrie played in the playoffs until the final. But I mean, like what he was doing on his own was amazing. And even like Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving, they're not Pippen and Rodman. So even though he had those guys, and I mean Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh are not Pippen and Rodman either. So I think it's hard to discredit him because he hasn't won championships. Because he's never had anybody like Jordan had.
those two guys, like Carl, I want your input on this too, but those two guys, Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, were both superstars in the league. They're both first team, they're both all-stars in the league, right?
Yeah, multiple all-stars.
Tell me if I'm wrong. Both of those guys are superstars.
Yeah, they're both all-stars, and they're both, but they were never like Pippen at one time was the second best player in the league. Like Dwayne Wade might have been Dwayne Wade was a top 10 player in the league for his whole career.
Dwayne Wade is a top 5 player in the league for a few years, probably.
When Dwayne Wade didn't have LeBron, he didn't make the playoffs. Like I don't know what else. Like I don't know how else you can. Like he scored well. He was a great player. He was a Kyrie Irving. Like he was better than Kyrie Irving because he did it consistently every single year. Right? Like when could he have ever led a team by himself? Like his first championship, Shaq was the MVP. He got the MVP of the finals. I know that, and he was unbelievable in the finals. But and I feel like I'm discrediting Dwayne Wade. Like he's amazing. He was a top 10 player in the year. He was a top 10 player in the league for his whole career. Like maybe not his rookie season, but for almost his whole career, he was a top 10 player in the league, and maybe not his last season. But so like that's an amazing player, but he was not Scottie Pippen. And Chris Bosh was a great player, but once he got to the Heat, like he was a little bit lost, and the skills that he had never got used properly because he wasn't like the right player in that system. Whereas the Bulls had the perfect guy in Dennis Rodman because they could let the other guys handle the ball and he would just do all the dirty work. Like the Heat needed Chris Bosh to be a Dennis Rodman, and like that's just not who he is. So I think LeBron has never had players until now. Like I think now he has a second player that's close to being like Scottie Pippen, or maybe even better. Like Anthony Davis might be a top 5 player in the league. Probably, is that right?
Oh yeah, right now for sure.
Maybe he's not 2. Maybe top 5. Okay, like maybe he's not 2, but yeah, okay.
There's
how many times was Dwayne Wade? Hey, Carl, do you mind checking how many times was Dwayne Wade first team All NBA?
Sure.
You might prove me wrong here. If they say he was a 10-time first team All NBA, I'm going to look like an idiot here. But because I didn't look that up.
Maybe just look up like first, second, or third team at All NBA.
I'm sure he was in the first. I'm sure he was first, second, or third, like for at least 10 times.
Yeah, but if you compare that to Scottie Pippen, they're probably pretty equal in terms of their like rankings in first, second, third team All NBA.
Yeah, but I feel like
like first
Pippen,
team All NBA. First team All NBA is the top person in your position in the league, right? It's 5 people.
Yeah.
So he played. What did he play? Shooting guard? What was his position? Shooting guard. So the best players in the league are usually shooting guards or small forwards, right?
Yeah, like often the best scorers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dwayne Wade made All NBA team 6 times between all of them.
How many
All
first,
NBA team?
Let's see.
How many first teams?
First team 1, 2, so 2,
and then
2 first teams.
2. Look at Scottie. Compare Scottie.
Oh man, here it is.
Is this what it comes down to?
Hey, I'm not arguing with you. I'm just like,
yeah.
Dwayne was legit, man.
Yeah. Okay, but the biggest knock that I think on LeBron is that first championship when he played for Miami. So that first championship when he was in Miami against Dallas, he was not that good. And you might look at his stats and they might actually end up being pretty good, but I remember like he was missing shots at the end of the game, and like he was not that good. Jordan never had a final like that. Like obviously he never had a final like that. But so that's that was where LeBron. I don't know what happened that year. I think they were up in the series and then they kind of fell apart. And that's the one thing against LeBron. Like they should have won that one. And Jordan, if it was Jordan, he would have won.
So that's the
with
thing.
That team against.
Okay, I want to hear the Scottie.
Scottie Pippen was first team 3 times, second team twice, and third team twice.
So he was 7.
Okay, I guess they're pretty close.
So that LeBron year, 2011 against the Mavs, I think that is like I think that's a big point in his career.
Yeah.
Comparatively, we're not comparing him to like other NBA players. We're comparing him to the best player of all time, the best athlete of all time, Michael Jordan. It's the top human being of all time in athletics. That's what we're comparing to. We're not comparing him to others. He averaged 17.8 points a game in that NBA Finals. Michael Jordan never scored less than 20 in an NBA Finals game.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan was 6 for 6 in the NBA Finals. LeBron James is 3 for 8. You can talk about his team all you want. Physical athleticism, LeBron James is way higher. But all the other factors that we talked about at the beginning, winning, competitiveness, like will to win, work ethic, all those other things, I think Michael Jordan wins.
I agree with all that. And I don't like, I'm not in any way saying LeBron is better than Jordan or he's a number 1. But I'm just saying, like, from what you hear people say, I think he's a closer number 2 than what people think. And because like when he got into the league, he was on terrible teams, and he started getting teams close with much less than Jordan did. And it took Jordan a while. Like obviously, once Jordan figured it out, nobody ever could stop him. He just was never. Nobody could stop him for 6 years. You know, like minus a midlife crisis, he was absolutely unstoppable. And like, you know, so pretty much 8 years. So pretty much for 8 years, he was unstoppable. Then there's a midlife crisis.
Jordan went to a team that didn't Jordan went to a city and a team that did not give a shit about basketball, right?
Yeah.
They were terrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Weren't they talking about moving the team? Like the team sucked. No one went to the games.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. But I think LeBron did more with less. Although I guess maybe that's not fair to say because Jordan was playing against the Celtics and the Pistons. So maybe that's not a fair argument to say. And LeBron was, you know, like he was playing in a pretty weak East at that time. But what LeBron has done, like just the fact that he's getting to the final all the time, like it's like it is like it's amazing. And I do feel like his teams are not as strong as Jordan's teams.
Yeah, I want to
whether they're not put together as well or
so on that note, like whose fault is that? Because when you have a guy like Michael Jordan, it seemed, in watching this documentary, it seemed like Jerry Krause, although he was an absolute nut job, absolute crazy person, it seemed like he did a really good job in just like supporting cast, figuring out who needs to be around this crazy human that is going to win championships to make this happen. Whose fault is that for LeBron? Like, LeBron was an absolute specimen since he was 12 years old. Everyone knew he was going to be one of the best NBA players of all time in high school.
Yeah.
So, like, why is that not more of a concern for management? Why are we not spending more money to win more to get this guy 8 championships?
LeBron never had a Phil Jackson.
Yeah, like I think one of the
Is it
and he was in Cleveland. Well, he was in Cleveland, and the owner is crazy, and nobody likes him, and
so
like I think so. I mean, I don't know, but then also LeBron just like bounced around, like he's kind of bounced around. He got to Miami, and they had to start something new, and it took them a year, and then they bounced back to Cleveland, and he had to try to start something new, and it took them a year, and then they won in their second year, right? Is it their second year? And then. And then he bounced to LA, and he had a tough first year, and so like he's never been able to have that consistent dominance the way Jordan did, and I think the continuity probably has something to do with it, and maybe it's because he was in Cleveland and he felt like it can never happen in Cleveland. It's such a dysfunctional like situation at the top that I have to leave, and maybe that's what it was, and maybe with Jordan, he felt like, you know what, whether I like these guys or not in management, they're putting together the right pieces, and I'm happy to stick around. And but maybe just Jordan is just mentally better. Like maybe he's just mentally tougher, and he's able to will teams to victory when LeBron couldn't. And LeBron was able to get his teams there and not will them to victory.
It's interesting watching this documentary recently on Jordan that who was their coach before? Doug Collins, right? Prior to Phil. And when Doug got fired, Jordan was pissed. Jordan's like, I don't get along with Phil. Doug and I get along really well. He understands me. And then 8 years later, whatever, however many years later, it's the exact same conversation. If Phil's leaving, I'm leaving. I'm not signing. I'm not coming back.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. I don't know if that's a loyalty thing or just like they won 6 championships, so he's like, this is the way it's going to be, or I'm done, kind of thing, or what. But
yeah,
I don't know. I just thought it was funny how that like turned really quickly. How he was like, I don't like Phil. Phil is not my style. I like Doug. Doug is my guy.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you can see how that would be hard, though. Like, Phil came in and said, you need to give up the ball.
Right.
Like, okay, you're scoring 37 points a game last year. You're not going to score that this year because we're going to play the triangle offense. And trust me, you have to trust me that it's going to help us win a championship. And you're going to score less. It's going to take a while. I don't think they won their first year with Phil, right? It was their second year.
Yeah.
And he's like, you just have to trust me. It's going to help us win.
They lost to Detroit in the Eastern Conference Final. The first year.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so who's your top 3?
My top 3?
You have MJ and LeBron.
I've got Jordan as 1, Pele as 2.
Wow.
Jordan 1, Pele 2.
Again, with soccer, like it's really difficult to understand how good these people were, especially when we can't see them play. Pele played what, in the 50s and 60s? Like we can't, or 60s and whatever it was, 60s or something. We can't see them play.
Yeah.
So it's difficult to look back at stats and understand how good a soccer player was based on stats because there isn't that much. Anyway, I want to hear your argument for Pele being in the top 3.
Like, I think it's probably just more from what you hear that it was amazing, and he was amazing. He won 3 World Cup championships. He changed the way soccer was played. And he's the best player in the best sport in the world. He's the best player ever in the most competitive sport in the world. And like, who can you rank ahead of him? I mean, I can rank Jordan ahead of him because of how dominant he was. And a lot of that's emotional. And a lot of that is the when he did it. And he did it from the time I was 10 to the time I was 18. And so every championship I watched. And when I was 10, I couldn't believe what he was doing. And but Pele is the best player ever. And I think on most lists, you'll see him as the best player ever in the most competitive sport in the world. And he helped change the game. I don't know a lot about soccer, and a soccer guy might tell us a little bit differently, but at that time, it was a really just kind of slow team passing game, and they changed it to be more up tempo, and it was him and his teams that did that, and so changing the game, and then I think I would put Babe Ruth and Gretzky in next. And I don't know what order. I think I'd put Babe Ruth and then Gretzky, but maybe Gretzky and then Babe Ruth. I don't know.
So a couple things about Pele I want to say. He was a goal scorer. He scored a lot of goals. So he scored a goal in almost every single game he played, which is crazy. It's wild. I understand. I don't know what the competition level is like in 1961. I have no clue. It's 35 years before I was born. But some stats. So he played...
But it was the most competitive sport in the world. So I don't know what the competition was like either, but it was the most competitive sport in the world.
Okay. So he played 1,363 professional games. He scored 1,281 goals. He played 114 games for Brazil, scored 95 goals. He won 3 World Cups, which is wild. But I don't know if you saw this. He did not play in the second one. He got injured in the second game of the second World Cup.
And didn't play. Okay, yeah.
He didn't play the rest of the World Cup. So in World Cups that he actually made a difference, he won 2.
Yeah. Which is still insane. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
He's the only one to have 3. Yeah.
It's really cool.
So still 2 is the best in the world.
But I mentioned this earlier. He was born in the best soccer country in the world, right? Like, it's a little bit of luck. If he was born in Trinidad and Tobago, he's not winning 3 World Cups. Doesn't matter how good he is.
Yeah.
So soccer is a weird sport that way. Same as like Lionel Messi. Argentina, always somewhat good at soccer.
If Messi's born in Brazil, maybe he has 2 World Cups.
Maybe he has 7.
Like if Messi had been playing. Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
That'd be difficult, but yeah.
Okay, I agree. I don't know a lot about Pele. I've heard the myths of Pele. Like he's, obviously.
A lot of what I know is just the myth as well.
His goal stats back it up. The only disappointment from my stat research today was he was injured in his second and he didn't play other than 1.5 games.
And he's not the leader in World Cup goals either. Like I want to say he's in the top 10, but he's not. He's not right up there in the top 1 or 2.
Not totally sure. Okay, so
you can fact check that. I don't know exactly.
He's number 5.
So in the top
5, okay.
So there's one person we have not talked about, and I don't know how.
I know.
It's ridiculous. It's comical. You don't have him in your top 5? He's not in your top 5?
Well, I've only given you 4.
Okay, so what number is he?
Yeah, like he's right in there. So so my only knock on him, and like I'll let you speak because the things that he did were amazing, is he's not the best to ever play his sport. And he changed the sport, which is I think in this conversation, which puts him in this conversation. Obviously, the way he played the sport puts him in the conversation. The athleticism puts him in the conversation. But he's the second best ever to play his sport.
Disagree.
And he went into a sport that was not one of the most competitive sports in the world at the time, and he's completely changed it, so it's a different sport now. So that puts him up there. But it was not the most competitive sport in the world at the time, and he changed it. And he was playing against people that were not like ready for him. And if he was playing today, he would not be doing the same thing that he was doing. So sorry.
If he was playing today in his peak, he'd still be dominating.
Who are you talking about? Are you talking about the greatest golfer in the world?
I'm talking about the greatest golfer.
Are you talking about Jack or Tiger? Talking about Jack or Tiger?
This is so ridiculous.
Okay, go. I'll let you talk. I'll let you go now.
Okay. Do you even know how to spell his first name?
Yeah. Spell it? No. I know what his first name is though. I'm gonna Google it right now. Yeah, I know it's Eldrick.
Yeah. So there's a few reasons why he's 100% the best golfer of all time. And I'd say 100% arguably in the conversation for best athlete of all time. So his stats, I don't know did you spend any time researching him today or no? I hope you didn't.
I did not. No.
Okay, because a lot of this.
So you're gonna blow me away. Yeah.
Absolutely blow your mind. So there's some comparisons to Jack. Jack won 18 majors. Yes, that is the only reason you're saying he's the best is because he won 18 majors. But also remember that you're putting LeBron James in your top 3, who is by far not
LeBron's not in my top. LeBron's not in my top. LeBron is close after that top 5. So sorry.
That discredits you right there. Okay. So I'm just going to throw a bunch of stuff out there. So majors, he's number 2. He's won 15 majors. He's second place. Most PGA Tour wins. He's tied for number 1. His win percentage on the PGA Tour, do you have any idea how much better it is than number 2?
I don't know.
So Jack has won 73 tournaments on the PGA Tour. Sam Snead is tied for number 1. He won 82. Tiger Woods also has won 82. Sam Snead's win percentage, he won 82 tournaments out of playing 585. That's 14%. Tiger Woods' win percentage, 82 out of 359 is 22.8%.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's almost double. Yeah. So he's winning almost double every tournament he plays than number 2. It's ridiculous. So these are some ridiculous stats, Vinny.
Yeah, no, I'm ready. I'm ready.
Just wait. Okay. In 2006 to 2007, he won 7 consecutive PGA tournaments. That is insanity. Yep. It is extremely hard to win a PGA tournament. He won 7 in a row. Yeah. He also won 6 in a row, which is number 1 and 2 in best consecutive tournament wins in history. From 99 to 2000, he won 6 in a row. So he's number 1 and 2 in that record. He went 142 tournaments in a row. So remember, he's only played 359 tournaments. So 142 is like more than a third. He won 142 tournaments in a row without missing a cut. That is ridiculously by far better than anyone else. Jack is number 2 at 105. 142 tournaments without missing a cut.
Yeah.
I'm going to actually comprehend how ridiculous these numbers are because they're stupid good. So he had 2 different periods in his career that he was number 1 in the world consecutively for 5 more years, for like 5+ years. So from 2005 to 2010, he was number 1 in the world for 281 weeks. He had another spurt of 264 weeks in the where he was number 1 in the world from 99 to 2004. So wow. he's played on the PGA Tour for 23 years or something like that. 22 or 23 years. He's been number 1 in the world for 11 of those 23 years.
Wow.
Going into the final round in the major with a share of the lead, he's 14-1. Going into the final round of a PGA event with the share of the lead, he's 55-4. With a lead going into the final round of a PGA event, he's 44-2. It's a 93% win rate when he's tied for the lead or winning. I want you to guess what the PGA average is of going into the final round with a share of the lead. What is the PGA average? His win rate going into the final round of a PGA tournament is 93.2%. What do you think the PGA average is?
It's in the 20s. Is it in the 20% range?
No, it's 44%. So he's better than double.
Okay.
He has the lowest career scoring average in PGA Tour history.
Yeah.
He has the lowest single season scoring average, obviously. He's been the PGA Tour Player of the Year 11 times. Guess how many times Jack Nicklaus was the PGA Tour Player of the Year? I'll tell you.
How many times was Jack the PGA Tour Player of the Year?
5. Tiger Woods 11 times.
Yeah.
PGA, not that money matters a lot in this conversation, but PGA money leading in earnings in a year. Jack was 8 times the leader. Tiger's 10. Tiger is the only player in golf history. This is
going to be a good one.
Carl, this is probably the best stat we have.
Here we go.
The only player in PGA history, in golf history, to win all 4 majors in a row. You know what they call that? Do you have Carl, just guess what they call it. They call it the fucking Tiger Slam. He named the Tiger Slam all 4 majors in a row.
I think Serena Williams did that.
So again, he has the most PGA. So this is another stupid stat that no one knows about. He's won 41 tournaments on the European Tour that don't count towards the PGA Tour wins. He's won 82 tournaments on the PGA Tour plus 41 on the European Tour. He got to 82 wins, so he's tied for the PGA Tour win record with Sam Snead. He got to 82 wins 9 years earlier than Sam Snead. Sam Snead was 53 when he got to 82. Tiger Woods is 42. Sorry. Sam Snead was 51. Tiger Woods is 42.
Well, okay, so I would put him number 1 in golf players over Jack now. I didn't know those stats. So I haven't studied Tiger stats.
Tell me what was the
struggle to put him.
I want to hear what was the craziest. What was the craziest thing you just heard?
Like they're all crazy. I think just it's the number of wins. It's the number. It's the 2 times 5 years at number 1. Like that consistency is unbelievable. Yeah. But does he get knocked down because of his meltdown? Does it knock him down at all? Or
honestly, I think it makes him better.
Yeah. How does that? So because Jordan had a meltdown too. So is that does it just equate to Jordan's meltdown? Like Jordan's was different. He didn't get in trouble. He just went and decided he was going to play baseball. But that was kind of a similar thing. Like he was just burnt out, kind of having a midlife crisis. I'm going to try something different.
I think it's the overcoming adversity thing. Like, honestly, man, like, I don't know if anyone in Tiger's shoes has ever been through what Tiger went through, right? Like, sure, he put himself there, 100%. He made some very, very poor life choices. But at the same time, like, media and players and golf and everyone in the world is telling him he's a terrible human being, right?
Yeah.
And a couple of years later, he just comes out of it and he's like, screw you guys, I'm going to be the best again. I don't care. Yeah. He fell to like 1600th ranked golfer in the world.
Wow.
And then he climbed back up to 6. That's wild, Vinny. He won the Masters last year. He was 41.
So are his numbers more dominant than Gretzky's numbers?
So again, it comes down to a little bit of like bias. 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. And you love golf. And so
I don't know hockey that well.
Yeah.
I don't appreciate hockey for all that I'm sure it's a very difficult sport. I don't appreciate it the way that it should be appreciated by someone who's played it for 25 years.
A real hockey guy. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And I'm the same way. And I can appreciate what he did.
I play golf a lot. I have no idea what this sport is about. I am completely lost out there. No idea. I'm like a somewhat athletic human being. I can't figure this shit out. Makes no sense to me. Can't hit it straight. If I want to hit it right, it goes left. If I want to hit it left, it goes right. Makes no sense to me. This guy was number 1 in the world in his career for over 13 years.
Yeah. So where are you putting him then? Okay, so where are you putting him on your list then?
An intimidation factor, he is by far number 1.
An intimidation factor?
100,000%. I don't think anyone has been even close to him. And
what about Usain Bolt?
Maybe it's because it's
Bolt?
Sport.
Like an individual sport's different, right? Like Usain Bolt and Phelps and even Roger Federer. Like Roger Federer went. Did you say it was 5 Wimbledons in a row? Like people must have been going into those tournaments thinking we're playing for number 2. Like even Nadal and even those guys in the back of their mind, they're thinking, we're not beating this guy on grass.
I think it was different. I think tennis was different because there was like 3 guys that could win every tournament. Tennis is a weird sport, hey? Where like in golf it's one against 143, whereas tennis it's like 1-on-1. So it's like always a mental battle 1-on-1 versus other people who you know are not as good as you. Whereas golf,
so you're always getting to the quarterfinal. Like you're kind of always like in that,
single time.
Yeah.
You know what? I wrote this down. I want to mention it because it's crazy. Federer's win percentage. Do you have any guess what it is in his like tournament?
I'd love to hear
it. 82.1%.
Wow.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah. Okay, so back to Tiger. Where is he on your best athletes of all time? Like the way you're talking about him, it sounds like he's number 1.
So I really, really respect Michael Jordan and everything that he did for basketball. I don't know if I could possibly pick one other person to be in the top 2 other than Tiger and Michael.
Okay. Thanks for not putting him ahead of MJ, because like if you put him ahead of MJ, I probably would have hung up. But okay, like having him in it.
Also, number 2 I just want to comment at the same time that Michael Jordan was slightly before my time where I really appreciated watching sports.
Right.
Like his last year at the Bulls was 98. I was 9 years old. Whereas Tiger won the Masters last year, and I'm still seeing how unbelievably stupid good he is in his 40s, which is crazy. So he was like just starting to get good when I was 8, 9, whereas Michael was done his career at 8.
Yeah.
So a little different. I don't think I could come up with an argument that says Tiger's ahead of Michael, although I would put him in that conversation.
Right.
When you hear Phil Mickelson was by far his number 1 competitor for the last 25 years, by far.
Yeah.
Phil's won like 45 tournaments on the PGA Tour, won, I don't know, I can't remember, 4 to 6 majors. Very, very good golfer for a long period of time. Phil Mickelson says the only reason he has as much money as he has is because Tiger made golf cool.
Yeah, but you can say that about a lot of these guys. Like you'd say that about Jordan. Like, in The Last Dance, there's a lot to talk about Pippen's contract, right? There's a lot of talk about Pippen's contract, and the thing is, when Pippen signed his contract, it was a good contract for him, but they didn't anticipate how much Jordan would have changed the game and how much TV ratings were up and how much the contracts 7 years later were like just so inflated because of Jordan. Like all of that is because of Jordan. Like those contracts, that Pippen contract of 18 million over 7 years or something like that. And if he would have signed it 5 years later, it would have been 100 million over 7 years.
Okay,
or more. It would have been more.
You mentioned the thing about like golf not being where the best athletes went in the 70s, 80s, 90s. Sure. Agree.
Yeah.
There was a lot of mediocre white dudes. Absolutely. But now, like the guys that are playing golf, the athletic humans like Brooks Koepka and Dustin Johnson, like these guys are...
I agree with you. It's totally changed. Really those guys are freak. Yeah.
But the only reason they chose to play golf is because Tiger made it cool.
Yeah, I agree. But you could say that about MJ. You could say that about Gretzky. Like I'm sure you could say that about Pele. And like although I guess soccer was so popular in Brazil anyway. But you could say that about a lot of these guys. But you're right. Those are the guys. Maybe not about a lot of these guys, but these are the guys that really are at the top of this list. Those guys that have changed everything. And the one guy, like obviously I talked about this at the start, the one guy that changed everything, and I think he changed it more than anybody's ever changed anything, is Jackie Robinson. And like he's not in my top 5, but he changed something more than anybody's ever changed anything. And other than that, you're right. MJ, Tiger, Gretzky, like those guys really changed their sport.
So like one of our friends, Mike Bell, plays on the Canadian Tour, which is 2 levels down from the PGA Tour. And the difference between like he didn't have a good season last year, but the difference between like a good guy on the Canadian Tour and the guy on a PGA Tour that is like in the top 100 in every tournament is like 1 stroke. So I don't know a sport like golf is a stupid, crazy sport. I don't know a sport where the difference from like number 25 in the world to number 47,000 in the world is so small. It's so crazy. So like I give Tiger a lot of credit because I played a lot of golf and I understand how ridiculously hard the sport is and how much time must have been spent to be that consistent at this sport. But like the difference between those guys is so small.
Yeah. Okay, so what's your top 5? So you're going MJ and then Tiger. Is that right?
MJ and Tiger.
MJ then Tiger. Sorry, did you say?
And
MJ, Tiger.
It's based on a lot of things, right? Like I want to clarify that it's not based on physical athletic ability.
Yeah, I agree.
Physical athletic ability, I'd probably put LeBron number 1. I don't know anyone that's better.
Yeah.
But it's based on so many more things. It's based on winning, which Tiger and MJ are clearly the best at their sports. It's based on like competitiveness and like just absolute, like, I don't know what the terminology is, but like desire to win. Like I'm going to win or else there's no other option. And then like, I think there's a gap. I don't know who else is next, to be honest. Like I think Federer's up there in his sport.
Because you're discounting people you didn't see. Is that what you're saying? You're not including people you didn't see. Because Babe Ruth is up there.
Well, I think I made that clear from the beginning. I can't. Okay. How do I comment on that? I've never watched them. I'm not spending thousands of hours a week trying to research these people and watch the black and white footage. I'm commenting on people that like, I understand how.
Yeah.
What do you comment? What are you laughing about?
Just you watching the black and white footage of Babe Ruth.
Yeah, I'm not doing.
Okay. Sorry, so like there's somebody that I have to say that we haven't talked about is Hank Aaron. Like I know we've kind of talked about everybody and we're trying to get into your top 5, but the fact that I missed talking about Hank Aaron is a huge mistake. So we don't need to get into his whole career, but the fact that I didn't talk about him was a huge mistake because maybe he's number 2 in baseball and maybe he's number 5 overall or 6. I'm not sure. But anyway, sorry, finish your top 5. What's that?
What year
did he finish in the 70s? In the like early in the
It's hard to comment.
I don't know. I don't know that.
Like I've never seen them play. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just hearing stories from other people. So let's say greatest athletes of all time in the last 30 years.
Okay.
MJ and Tiger tied number 1. Can't decide.
Okay.
LeBron number 3. Then everyone else.
Yeah. Okay.
I think those.
Okay. So if we're saying last 30 years, I'm saying MJ, and then it's like Messi probably is in there, and then Tiger, Gretzky, and LeBron.
I like my only thing about Messi. I've really enjoyed watching him. I don't watch him a lot, but like World Cups and stuff, Champions League. It's a weird sport where you can't dominate.
Yeah,
like the domination.
And my biggest thing is like it's the most competitive sport in the world, so you gotta put those guys in there because the best athletes in the world are playing that sport. And I'm not saying like the best Canadian athletes and the best American athletes, but like if you're living in Argentina or Brazil or parts of Europe, like if you're only not playing soccer, if you're not good enough. So the guys who are playing other sports, it's only because they're not good enough at soccer. Like there's no other reason to play another sport.
I get it. I just like, you have to stand out. Like you have to do something extremely special to be in the top 5 athletes of all time, ever.
But you're saying you just have to choose an easier sport. Like he should have just chosen an easier sport. If his goal in his life was to be on you and my list, to be on our list, if he grew up saying, I want to be on Denny and Vinny's list, I can't play soccer because I just have to choose an easier sport. Soccer's too hard.
I can guarantee that Messi does not give a shit about Denny and Vinny's list.
I don't know.
He doesn't care.
I'm pretty sure he grew up wanting to make this list.
I'm Googling right now, Lionel Messi net worth. And it's only $400 million. Yeah, he definitely doesn't care about this list. I bet Cristiano Ronaldo's double that, though.
Yeah.
That's a guy that probably should be mentioned just because, like, he's a bit of a baby, so people don't appreciate him as much, but, like, geez, yeah. He makes over $100 million a year.
Wow.
I don't know. Not that money really means all that much, but like, yeah, he has a higher net worth than Messi. I don't know. Soccer is a weird one because there's too many people on the field, and it's hard to. I don't know. Like, what stats do you compare people? How do you compare Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi? Do you look at goals? Like, do you look at assists? Like, how do you compare them? That's the problem.
Well,
Whereas, like basketball,
I just think that there's
golf. There's things,
but I think their starting point, like you're starting them, you have to start them at a higher level because they made a decision to play the hardest sport in the world, and they made that decision, and they said, I'm going to go against the best, and Tiger said, I'm going to be the best against these other guys, and same with Gretzky, and part of that is just because of where they grew up. It's not their fault. Like Gretzky, if he decided he wanted to be a soccer player, he probably could have been one of the best soccer players in the world because of the type of athlete that he is. But they're playing against 500 million people, and these other guys, they're playing against different. Like it's a different number, and basketball is getting close, but it's not there.
So why don't you put Messi?
It's just harder.
Why do you put Jordan?
Why didn't I put Messi number one? Yeah, just it's probably emotional. It's probably emotional. Because Jordan, like you'd have the same criticism of Jordan as you do Tiger, or that I did of Tiger, that he stepped in when it wasn't as good, and he completely changed it. And he totally dominated. So you're right. When he stepped in, the league was not as good as it is now. Whereas in soccer, I'm sure it's getting better and better. It's always getting better. But they stepped into the most competitive sport and competitive league in the world. I'm not a soccer fan even. Like I don't dislike soccer. Like I love soccer, but I'm not a soccer guy. Like I don't even know any of these guys. I can't say I've watched a Messi or Ronaldo game other than in the World Cup or Euro Cup. But I think you have to. I think something has to go into the fact that they decided to play the hardest sport in the world.
There's one sport we haven't really talked about at all, and that is boxing. So we haven't talked about Muhammad Ali or Floyd Mayweather.
Muhammad Ali. Yeah.
But once again, the thing with that is he was super early on. There's a different time in the world, right? So we never got to experience all that stuff.
Yeah, the Muhammad Ali is a good one. But you're right. Like, I never saw him, and I'm just not like a boxing fan. Like, I've never, yeah. But yeah, the way he changed America was he was a huge influence in America and hated.
Mm-hmm.
Like when he was boxing, he was hated for a time. Like he went to jail.
Wasn't that during the Vietnam War or whatever? He was protesting it.
Yeah, because yeah.
Carl, based on our arguments tonight, I want you to pick your top 3 based on who the best argument was made for.
Okay. Number 1 is Michael Jordan easily. He's just a winner. That demeanor, everything, dude. Well, I feel like he was in both you guys' top 3 lists too.
No,
he was mine.
There you go. I think
he's tied 1 for me.
There you go. Yeah, so MJ is my number 1. And I think you guys made a great points about soccer just being so big and having such a big impact. I'd have to say Pele, I guess, with everything he's done. And then my top, I don't know, Tiger Woods is my 3rd guy. It's hard for me to give it to someone like Usain Bolt or Michael Phelps just because their sports are so niche. But Tiger Woods changed golf completely. And there's no way golf would be anywhere close to where it is today if it wasn't for him.
It wouldn't.
And are you just not a baseball guy, or is Babe Ruth? Did he play too long ago that you're just not counting him?
Fuck, I think it's just so long, man.
It's just so long ago. Okay, that's fine. I'm not saying that you should count him. I was just wondering, did you not count him because you thought that what he did doesn't add up, or did you just think like it's just too long ago?
I think
he's not counted in here.
It's just too long ago. Like I was talking to Denny earlier today, and like. Put someone like Aaron Judge next to Babe Ruth. Just the whole game is completely different, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, like golf.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so I disagree with that. I think if Tiger Woods is in his prime today, he has the exact same record.
You think so?
I think he's mentally tougher than everyone. I think he's created this sport and he's made the field much deeper, but I don't think people are competing with him.
Still, eh?
He was so much better. He was so much better, man.
But everyone's better now too. That's the thing.
The field is stronger for sure, but people are not on that level. No one is on that level. No one's on that dominance level. People have spurts. People go through little spurts, like Brooks Koepka had his spurt in the last year and a half.
Right.
Jordan Spieth had a spurt for a year. Rory McIlroy's had a spurt for a couple years. He was number 1 in the world from 99 to 2010 for 10 and a half years of those 11 years.
That's insane, man. That's crazy.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's crazy. I just want to say that I'm not trying to say anything bad about anybody that we've spoken about, or say like that's garbage. These guys don't belong here. And same with Tiger. Like I'm not trying to say anything bad about him. Like obvious, I think I have him in my top 5 or 6, and maybe it's because I don't put the same value on golf as you, and I don't mean to not put value on golf. I just put more value in a team sport. I don't know.
It's the hardest sport I've ever played by far. It's Vin, I don't know like how much time you spend on golf, but it is crazy. The better you get, the worse you get. I know that makes absolutely no sense, but the game of golf makes no sense.
Yeah.
Literally.
I think that's every sport though. Like you say it's the hardest sport. Like it's okay, it's just who you're competing against, because you're just trying to win tournaments, right? Like, okay, if it's hard for you, it's hard for the guy beside you. You're just trying to win tournaments. Like we're not judging his perfection on, hitting fairways and that. We're judging like tournament wins. And so when you say how hard it is only who you're competing against. Like if he went and just, you can't say golf's the hardest. If he went and played on the Canadian Tour, he'd win every tournament. Like, but he's playing on the PGA Tour. He's not, because he's just playing against more competitive. And that's why I put soccer, like the soccer players, up there, because it's who you're playing against. You're playing against the best athletes in the world. Soccer, and I'd say now basketball. Not 20 or 30 years ago, but now soccer and basketball.
Would you say individual sports are more mentally tough though? Because there's no, like, in basketball, you can have a possession off. Right? Like, if let's say I'm playing against the Bulls, if I'm not guarding Michael Jordan, I could take a possession off. You know, I'm guarding Tony Kukoc. I'm sitting in the middle of the key. I'm waiting for Jordan to drive. Like, I'm taking 30 seconds off, kind of thing. Golf is so dumb because it's individual and you can't take 30 seconds off. It's different.
I mean, unless you're ahead, I guess if you're ahead by quite a bit, you could take some shots off, right?
But think about football, right? Like, if you're an outside linebacker and you're exhausted and you take a play off and they run a pass play to the opposite side of the field, doesn't hurt you. No one sees it. The coaches don't see it. Doesn't hurt your team. No one really cares. If you mentally have a lapse in a golf tournament and you hit a bad shot into the water, like, you lose the tournament. Louis Oosthuizen found that out the hard way last year, 2 years ago, right? He hit 2 balls in the water on the final round when he was up by 2. Like, I'm not trying to say
I've always thought the opposite. Like, I've always thought a team sport is mentally tougher because there's other people relying on you, and I think that's a pressure that you don't have in an individual sport when there's other people relying on you, especially when you're the best. When we're talking about this list of the best of all time, like, you can't take plays off because you have all these other guys relying on you, like guys like MJ and Gretzky. Like, obviously I don't know Pele or Babe Ruth but you know, those guys don't take games off.
Okay, I want to hear your thoughts on.
Yeah.
Because we had Mike Bell on the podcast. He plays on the Canadian Tour. One of the comments he made was, he's like, name one other sport, like tennis and golf, basically. Name one other sport that if you don't perform, if you don't make that putt, you don't get paid. Like basketball, soccer, football, rugby, cricket, any sport, any team sport, you have a salary. You get paid $3.5 million a year. You get paid $10 million a year. In basketball, you get paid $16 million a year. In golf, if you don't make that putt, you lose $600,000. If you don't make the cut in that tournament, you make zero.
It's the same in other sports, though. Like when you start in the sport, like you go and you start in the sport and you're on this 10-day contract, or, you know, you go up from the D League to the NBA and you're on a 10-day contract. And if you don't perform in that 10 days, you don't get paid. Drop back down to making, taking bus rides and making food money. And that's it. Like, it's the same. Like, they have the same pressure. Like, those guys who are on those 10-day contracts, those are they have huge pressure. Just like the guy on the Canadian Tour. I'm not downplaying the amount of pressure he had, or they have, in golf. Like, it's huge. Like, I get it. Like, you have a putt and to get into the money of a tournament or not. Like, that's huge pressure. But I don't think it's different than a guy going up from the D League to the NBA and having his 10-day contract and then, he misses one shot and he gets dropped down. Like, and he gets pulled out after he misses a shot and doesn't get another chance. Do you think it's different?
I think the pressure towards the end of a tournament is different.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Because you're playing a championship all the time. Like, you're kind of going into a championship all the time. You're not just playing these you're just not just playing these like regular season games.
Right. So, like, exactly. So a regular season game for, like, let's say a mediocre NBA player who's like a starter, but like a fifth man kind of thing, makes what, $3-4 million a year?
Sure.
That guy's going to make $3-4 million for this entire year, whether he scores 13 points a game or 9 points a game. Whereas a golfer starts from zero every single year. And let's say, like, if they, this is the craziness, Vinny. Like, let's say they're having a shit year. They play really well one week and they have a putt on 18 that's 6 feet to win the tournament or to come third. Let's say there's 3 guys up there. The difference in the money from winning to third is like $1 million. And so what I'm saying is in a basketball league, game 43 of the league, if fifth player on the team who's making $3 million a year misses a shot in the 37th minute of the game, doesn't really make much of a difference to them long term. But that golfer, if they miss that putt, that could be the difference of them staying on the PGA Tour or not.
Right. But like, okay, I see what you're saying, but also you're comparing a top 100 and 125 player in the NBA to a guy who is just cracking the PGA Tour. So, like, you should be comparing
Hold on. Do you know how many guys on the PGA Tour?
I don't know how many guys are on the PGA Tour now.
125. So the exact same as the number you just gave for the NBA.
I know, but it's different because of number of people to play also, right? Like it's a different, like you're talking about the guy just cracking it to, you're talking a middle of the pack player. So I'm not, okay, maybe the number is off, but a middle of the pack player in the NBA, sure, he's making $5 million a year. Like a middle of the pack golfer in the PGA Tour is, you know, he probably has $1 million, like he probably has sponsorships. So he's probably got money from day one already. He's
same with
like,
the NBA guy.
Yeah. But you're talking about the guy just trying to crack a lineup and versus a guy just trying to crack the PGA. I think that pressure is the same. Like the guy just trying to crack the lineup versus the guy just trying to crack the PGA Tour. I think that pressure is the same.
I'm talking about the daily pressure though. Do you think the daily pressure in game 43 is the same as someone trying to make a putt on 18 for a win in a tournament? I think it's different.
For a guy trying to crack a lineup that's either getting dropped at the end of the night or getting another 10-day contract or getting a contract to the end of the year because he's been performing, I think yes. I think no for that, for, you know, the fifth starter or the sixth man or the eighth man or the 10th man even. But I think for that guy, for that, like, you know, Jeremy Lin, you know, like, you know, if you perform, you get a contract, and if you don't, you're gone. I think it's the same. Like it's the same, you perform and you're gone, or you don't, and you know, you perform and you get it, and if you don't, you're gone. I think that's the pressure is the same, is it not?
I don't know. Carl, feel free to chime in. We're clearly disagreeing here.
Yeah.
I think it's different because the actual money is paid per week. Right? Like I'm talking about a guy who's on the PGA Tour who has a card. So the top 125 golfers in the world make the PGA Tour or whatever. There's 125 guys on the PGA Tour. They have a card. That means they play in all PGA events for the whole year.
Yeah.
If they shit the bed for the whole year, then they don't get a card next year because they fall out of that top 125. But they have the card for the entire year. But they don't get paid until they actually play well. Right? Whereas like a top 125 NBA player in the world, 100 top 25 basketball player in the world gets paid $3 million for this year. You get to play 82 games. You're guaranteed $3 million. Have fun. Whereas the top 125 golfer in the PGA Tour gets paid $0 and says, good luck, go win.
Yeah. Yep. For that guy who has nothing and has no sponsorships and has, or very little sponsorships and you know, just enough to get by, and that performance, and if performing means he's getting something and not performing means he's not, then that pressure is huge. And if you're saying that there's more people that are in that situation in golf than other sports, then I would agree with you. I don't know that there's more people in that situation in golf than other sports. That's all I'm saying. And I might just be wrong, but I just never thought that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Good conversation. Good conversation, though.
In golf, the spotlight is always on you. Whereas like a basketball game, even if you're having an off night shooting, you can work harder on defense. You can get more rebounds. Like you can work harder in other areas. Whereas like if you're hitting the ball not very good one day, you just don't get paid that.
Yeah.
Like there's no offense defense. You're not playing against anyone else. You're playing against yourself against the course, right?
Yeah.
It's a totally different game. And like talking to Mike about it from like a professional standpoint of, you know, Canadian Tour guys don't make any money. I think the top guy in the Canadian Tour made $126,000 last year. And then outside of the top 10, you make less than 50.
They probably had $90,000 in expenses or something like that for travel and all that stuff.
Your hotels, your car.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Maybe not that much, but yeah.
Honestly, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So I think Mike.
I'm not trying to discredit golf. I'm not trying to discredit it at all. Like I think that those guys trying to crack the PGA Tour or trying to crack the European Tour or whatever. I'm not in any way trying to discredit that or what Mike's doing. I think obviously that is a really, really hard thing to do, and only the most elite of the elite get even close to it. And I'm just saying that it's not that much different than other sports. I'm saying that the pressure on other sports when you're just trying to crack a lineup is similar, and maybe it's different in golf because of the way you get paid. Maybe that is different, but like we're talking about like the elite of the elite trying to crack a lineup, and you're either going to make $5 million or nothing, and I think the pressure's the same in both.
There's just different roles in other sports, right? Like in football, there's an offensive lineman that gets no glory, and your only job is to just like keep one dude in front of you.
Yeah.
In basketball, there's like other roles. Your role is not to score 35 points a game. Your role is to get 6 rebounds, score 8 points, and defend their third best player. Whereas golf is like, you have to beat 143 other dudes every single week.
Yeah.
I think it's different.
Yeah.
Team sports are different. It's totally different. Like even if you're not the best player on the team, you can take days off. And people do all the time, right?
Yeah. Yes, you're right. People do all the time. But I mean, you're putting your job on the line every time you are. And maybe you have signed a 5-year contract for $40 million, and and you're just feeling good, and you just kind of give up because you've had enough and you've made enough, and you're just going to coast. But I feel like the pressure's the same. I feel like if you really want it and you're just trying to, like, I'm talking about that guy just trying to crack the lineup. That's what I'm talking about. Obviously, if you've made that long-term contract, you see so many guys that just at that time they just coast. And the difference between Michael Jordan and he's like, he turned it on and he literally never turned it off. And those guys are just like, hey, I made it, I'm gonna turn it off. I'm good enough that I can coast. I might get criticized in the media, but I'm still going to make my money. And you're right. In golf, you don't have that situation. You don't have that coast factor, I guess. And I'm not meaning to say anything bad about golf either. I'm just meaning to say that like other sports are really, really like, the stress and the like it's there as well, I think. And anyway, I guess we've kind of digressed off of our greatest athlete of all time, but I know what you're trying to say. Like you're talking about how golf is different, and I just feel like it's not. Like I feel like it's great, but they're all great. And like sports that I don't love are like not my favorite sport. The sports that aren't my favorite are great too. Like hockey's an awesome sport. Like starting to coach kids baseball, it's like a kid who plays hockey automatically has a better swing. Like without coming and I mean, it's such a it just the skill just translates. I mean, it's a rotation. They're a rotational athlete that take that slap shot or take and automatically they've got a natural swing. And obviously you can't say that for everybody, but it's just every sport is great, and you can tell because so many people are so passionate about different sports, and like different parts of the world, they're passionate about different sports, and like we only have enough time to love the certain sports that we love, but there are amazing sports, and there's great things about them, and I agree that golf is an awesome sport. I'd love to play golf more, and and I do see how that you're out there by yourself and you've got nobody else, but on the other side, like when you're out there with a teammate, you've got a teammate to let down, and if you let them down, like I mean, it's just different. It might not. I don't know if it's harder or easier.
All right, so let's quickly recap. We agree number 1 is Russell Wilson. We agree number 2, Tiger Woods, and MJ.
Yeah. Okay, so we've all agreed on MJ number 1. Carl and me think Pele's number 2. So I guess Carl thinks that I won.
I don't know if this was a game.
Oh yeah. And then Denny thinks that Tiger's number 2. And then I have Babe Ruth as number 3. And then I have Gretzky as number 4. And I might have, maybe I should have put LeBron number 4 and Gretzky 5, but Gretzky 4, LeBron 5, and Tiger 6.
That's a solid list. Gretzky deserves to be up there for sure.
You put Tiger. That's embarrassing. Carl, we can't.
And I might be wrong about it.
No one,
but I can't put him.
No one ever has changed a sport like Tiger changed a sport. Ever.
I can't put him ahead of Pele, the greatest player in the hardest sport. I can't put him ahead of Babe Ruth.
Like the second World Cup. He didn't even play.
Yeah, okay.
Listen to that, Vinny. You're judging him based on World Cup. Listen, you're not listening.
Tiger Woods took 5 years off. Like, what do you like? I mean,
and he's still
I'm talking about what he did.
Right? Tiger Woods didn't win any tournaments when he was away. His numbers are still his numbers. Yeah. Pele took a whole World Cup off, and he still has a third World Cup because he didn't play. That just said that Brazil is a better country at soccer than everyone else.
But Pele also went into this saying, I'm so mentally tough, I'm going to try to be the best against the best. And Tiger said, what sport's easy to get good at? I'm just joking about that. I'm totally just joking about that one. I'm totally
2009 was a rough year for our buddy Tiger. His wife took a 9-iron to his windshield. Didn't work out well.
I might be wrong having him at number 6. Maybe he should be ahead of LeBron. Maybe he should be ahead of Gretzky. Maybe he should be ahead of Babe Ruth. But that's where I've got him.
So I compare him to Babe Ruth. 1, he won more. 2, he changed the sport more. 3, he was more physically athletic, if we're talking about all our categories. I don't know Babe Ruth in terms of like work ethic, so I can't really comment, but I would assume Tiger Woods' work ethic was
different than anybody else in his time. And it's a different era.
Tiger was different than anybody else in his time at any sport.
I would disagree with that. He wasn't different than Michael Jordan.
He was on the same level as Michael Jordan, and Michael Jordan was before his time. Tiger Woods' first victory was 97. Michael Jordan's last was 98.
Yeah.
So they're just after each other. Anyway. And he holds all the records, man. It's crazy. More dominance than anyone, any sport. 10 years, 10 and a half years out of 11 years, number 1 in the world.
And I ranked a golfer number 6 athlete of all time. That's pretty crazy. Carl, do you think like he's a golfer and he's the number 6 athlete of all time?
Golf, yeah.
That's pretty high.
That is high.
Right? Like we're comparing him to we've ranked him ahead of like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Like we didn't even list in here. We ranked him ahead of Messi. He's a golfer. We ranked him ahead of maybe the second best player in the most competitive sport in the history of the world.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar played in what year? 1958 against like 5'2" white dudes.
Okay, I'm not arguing that he's better than Tiger Woods and the athlete. I'm not arguing that, but I'm just saying we're ranking a golfer because of how amazing he's been higher than Shaquille O'Neal, like higher than Kobe, higher than Tom Brady, higher than like really high. Like we're saying Tiger is better than Tom Brady.
Tom Brady is shit.
Always back to Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Let's end this in 5 minutes. But why is Kobe better than LeBron?
I could not answer that.
I don't think.
Yeah. I couldn't. And that's not to discredit Kobe. It's just to say that he's just not like he was second fiddle for his first 3 championships. In the first championship, I think he averaged 15 points a game. In the second and third, he was in the low to mid 20s. But Shaq was averaging like I looked this one up earlier, and Shaq was averaging it was almost 40 and 20. Now, I'm probably exaggerating. It was probably like 37 and 17. But in that first championship, it was insane. And so Kobe was the best player on the team for 2 championships. Yeah, so sorry. And Kobe had a stretch in his career that his team was not that good. And it might have been a short stretch. It might have been a couple of years. I don't know. So the first championship, here's Shaq's stats. 43 and 19, 40 and 24, 33 and 13, 36 and 21, 35 and 11, 41 and 12 in the 6 games. And he was MVP all 3 times in their first 3 championships. So to put Kobe ahead because he has more championships, if LeBron played with Shaq, he would have had more too. And I'd have Kobe in my top, I don't know, 5 to 8 basketball players of all time. Sorry, do you think Kobe is ahead of LeBron, Danny?
Nope. I think LeBron's top 3.
Yeah.
I think LeBron is unlike any human I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll ever see another human like that for the rest of our lifetime.
Yeah, I agree.
6'9". What is he? Carl, what is he? 260?
He's like 265, yeah.
And he moves faster. He jumps higher than like really light people. Like it makes no sense how that actual density of a human can do what he's doing.
Yeah.
Watching his highlight and high school videos, I don't know if you've watched them. Hilarious.
Yeah.
He looks like an NBA. He looks like the best NBA player in the world playing against 12-year-olds.
Yeah.
Carl, remember we used to watch those, man?
All the time, dude.
Like he's jumping from the free throw line over people and dunking on everyone.
It's a video game.
It's just it's a video game. We're double between the legs, NBA Jam 97, whatever it was. Okay, anyway, let's get out of here. Vin, that was fun, man. Thanks for doing
that was great.
Thanks for doing some research.
Hey, I just want to finish. What was your top 5 really quickly? Like, just can you say that again?
I don't have a formal top 5. I would say
MJ, Tiger 1, 2, and then you said there's a bunch.
To me, MJ and Tiger are top 2. I'd probably put LeBron top number 3, and then after that, like I really appreciate Pele, Gretzky, Phelps, Bolt, Federer, Messi, like a bunch of dudes, and I don't know how to rank them based on maybe obscure sport like running and swimming. based on my maybe unappreciation of soccer and just how strange it is with too many people on the field and you can't really dominate.
Right.
I think there's a lot of things. Like, again, maybe Babe Ruth, maybe Jackie Robinson. I just never got to see them play.
No. And I don't think Jackie Robinson's stats are telling you that he's the greatest athlete of all time. I think it's more like what he meant to the
impact
game
totally
and the world, like, or North America.
Totally.
Yeah. All right. That was fun. Thanks for having me.
That was less argumentative than I thought it would be, other than our one-on-one story. Like, you're obviously wrong about that. So let's just end on that. Carl,
Yo.
Can we arrange, when's your new camera come in?
I have no idea. Why?
All right. So let's find out that date. Let's arrange a one-on-one, me and Vinny, and let's settle this shit.
At the cul-de-sac or what?
Let's do it. Cul-de-sac. Remember our half-broken backboard, Vinny?
Yeah.
Carl, name your top 3.
My top 3 guys, MJ.
Yeah. Number 1.
Fuck, this is so hard. I would say Gretzky and Tiger Woods.
Gretzky and Tiger.
Gretzky,
is Tiger number 3?
You had Pele.
I know.
You had Pele as number 2.
I think, or Gretzky's like a quarter Polish, so I'm going to go with them.
Is he really?
I think so. Rumor has it.
Cool. Yeah.
His stats are ridiculous.
It's hard to argue. Gretzky.
Ridiculous.
It's hard to argue. Gretzky.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, never beaten stats. Like, those will never be beaten. Whereas the other dudes that we're talking about, MJ's stats can be beaten, maybe. Yeah. His scoring averages per game were pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But like, someone could win more. Well, someone has won more than 6 NBA titles. I don't know. Just scoring.
Yeah.
The consistency.
Gretzky's stats will never be beaten.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
He's more than 1,000 points ahead of number 2. It makes no sense.
Insane. Yeah.
Maybe Michael Phelps will never be beaten. 28 Olympic medals. Mm-hmm. I don't know about that. Anyway. All right, dudes. Thanks so much. Love you guys.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Nice fun. Go Hawks.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thanks for having me.